Chapter 22-28. Yi Qing Luo was stunned. Follow her? Are you sure? Long Yunjian replied indifferently. Otherwise. All right, if Tong Ziqing really liked Ximing Han, then he could only follow Tong Ziqing. But what was Long Yunjian trying to do with his indifferent attitude? Didn't he seem to care a lot about Tong Ziqing in the morning? Yi Qing Luo didn't have time to ponder over this question. Fatty Master had already given the order for them to head towards the actual combat training forest, go around the forest, and start the load running. After 2 rounds of the actual combat training forest, it was exactly 50 kilometers. Class of God students didn't want to lose their high and mighty face in front of the waist class. So naturally, they were the first to bear the brunt and rush to the front. The Devil class students didn't intentionally chase after them, but followed behind Yi Qing Luo and started jogging. After the students had run far away, Master Xinqing, who had been resting with his eyes closed, lazily opened his eyelids. The Devil class students look as if 50 kilometers is nothing to them. The 2 masters remained silent for a while. Indeed, they could clearly feel it. After they said the figure of 50 kilometers, the Class of God students all drew in a breath of cold air. The Devil class students were so calm that it was as if they were 5 kilometers. Fatty Master expressed a sense of defeat. That young lady called Yi Qing Luo is very eye-catching. Fatty Master touched his chin. If she can really complete the first load training, I will observe her carefully for the rest of the time. Interested in her, Master Xinqing raised his brows. But I'm afraid you won't enter her eyes. Before Fatty Master opened his mouth, he had already snorted coldly. That young lady called Yi Qing Luo has been racking her brains to build a relationship with our class of gods. If she knew that fat old man has taken a liking to her, how could she not agree? TSK, old E, why do I hear a hint of jealousy in your tone? Are you jealous? Master Xinqing teased as he got closer to Master E. Master E was annoyed. How could I be jealous of that young lady? Her character is not good. No matter how strong she is, I won't take a liking to her. I didn't say it was student Yi Qing Luo. Master Xinqing smiled slyly at him. Enough! The fat master impatiently stopped the 2 from bickering. Old E, what did you just say? Yi Qing Luo, that young lady racked her brains to enter the class of gods? What do you mean by moral integrity? He indeed had a huge interest in Yi Qing Luo. This was the most imposing woman he had ever seen in the lower realms. Her confidence and her flamboyance made people involuntarily submit to her, if he was properly nurtured. In time to come, even if he went to the upper realm, he would definitely be a well-known figure. Teacher Yi's face was cold as he repeated what Yi Qing Luo had said to him during their first meeting. He continued, We all know the ghost doctor's temper. He's always been afraid of trouble. How could he accept a medicine master who hasn't even reached the level of a grandmaster apothecary? The ghost doctor's disciple? Teacher Xinqing and fat teacher's expressions changed slightly. What's the matter? Teacher, he was puzzled. I heard that the ghost doctor had indeed accepted a disciple in the academy, and that old man Guiyu is also eyeing the ghost doctor's disciple. Chapter 22-29. Don't forget, there's another one who is very interested in student Yi Qing Luo. Master Xinqing lazily glanced at the 2 masters. You haven't forgotten by May's expression when she saw Yi Qing Luo, right? The 2 masters looked at each other and suddenly felt that this year's batch of students from the class of devils would cause the peace in the class of gods to vanish. After the load running started, the devil class students maintained a uniform speed and ran forward in an orderly manner. Very soon, they arrived at the actual combat training forest. The students from the class of God were far ahead and were expressing their disdain towards the devil class students. Thinking of the devil class students, they must be crying for their parents, unable to even move a single step. But when one of the students from the class of God turned around, he discovered that just about 20 to 30 steps away from them, the Devil class students were running step by step. There wasn't any wobbling as they imagined, unable to even walk steadily. They weren't sprawled on the ground, unable to move as they imagined. They ran steadily, without the slightest hindrance. Could it be that they had cheated and removed the gravity belt? That was impossible. The teachers would use a special secret technique to monitor their training. If the Devil class students dared to cheat, the masters should have appeared to reprimand them and given them a warning. This bunch of trash, carrying a load of 80 kilograms of gravity belt, and they could still run? They must be putting on a brave front. The path in the forest was extremely steep, and there were various checkpoints set up. For example, climbing, drilling holes, hanging ropes, and other small things. What's more, there were arrays and mechanisms in the inner part of the forest. These things were not known to the Devil class students. By then, the Devil class students would definitely not have the energy to run. The students from the class of God retracted their gaze and started to dash forward with all their might in an attempt to widen the distance between the two classes. There were many magical beasts in the actual combat training forest. During the load running period, there would also be magical beasts coming over to harass them. Yi Ching Luo had been leading the Devil class students, taking small steps behind the students from the class of God, maintaining the most appropriate distance. Because of this, the magical beasts and whatnot were all dealt with by the class of God students. After dealing with 4 to 5 magical beasts, the students from the class of Gods reacted and glared at the students from the class of Devils, who were standing about 20 steps behind them, cursing them for being shameless. Yan Yu laughed coldly and mocked. You are indeed a bunch of trash. You only know how to invest and use tricks. You want to use our strength to complete this mission. You sure have a good plan. Only a fool wouldn't make use of resources. Yi Ching Luo calmly curled her lips, without the slightest bit of embarrassment. After all, there are so many guards protecting our safety. Guards. The faces of the students from the class of Gods turned ashen. The Devil class students actually treated them as guards? Let's see how you're going to follow us now. The student from the class of God sneered. Soon after, they all rushed into the lush forest and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Kitty, go chase after them. Kitty Lee's small body came out from behind and was about to rush in the direction where they disappeared. Its little tail was caught by Yi Ching Luo. Kitty Lee gave a meow as she hugged her own tail and turned her head to look at Yi Ching Luo. Sister, Kitty Lee won't be able to catch up if we're late. Chapter 2230. They were here for the class of Gods special training. Everything was done by the class of Gods. What was the point of their special training? Of course, she had to think of a way to piss off the class of God students and lead her own class of students on their own. But we don't know the way here. And Ruo Pan surveyed the surroundings. The fat teacher led them through the path of the combat training forest and towards the place where they could rest. Yi Ching Luo smiled. The unknown is the best special training. In future, you will meet with all kinds of accidents. Even if you are in an unfamiliar place, you must learn to quickly find the most accurate exit. Devil class's students remained silent for a moment and nodded their heads vigorously. We understand. The 11 of them continued forward. Fatty Master gave them a time limit of 9 o'clock, which was before 9 o'clock in the evening. They had to cross 50 kilometers and return to the physical fitness training ground. During this period of time, they had to keep on fighting against the Devil class, keep on crossing all the obstacles. They couldn't stop, couldn't rest. Time gradually passed by a few hours. The sky had turned dark. Devil class's students were gradually feeling the strain. Previously, they had gone through such a high level of training, but it didn't take that long. 30 kilometers of load running was what they could accept. 50 kilometers was too much for them to bear. After dealing with a magical beast, and Ruo Pan was panting so much that she couldn't even speak. Tong Ziqing wiped the sweat off her forehead. Qing Luo, we have already run for 35 kilometers and killed a total of 24 magical beasts. If this goes on, our brother's stamina might not be able to keep up. They were not only carrying the 80-kilogram load belt, and the load belt that they had always worn on their bodies, the lowest was 50 kilograms and the highest was 100 kilograms. The weight on each of them was not just 80 kilograms. Everyone has worked hard. Hang on a little more. There are still 15 kilometers left. After we finish the last 15 kilometers, we can sit down and rest. Yi Qing Luo panted. She knew that she could continue to hang on, but for her brothers, they might have reached their limit, especially after such a long period of exhaustion. The rations they had for lunch had long been digested, both physically and mentally exhausted, but they couldn't take a break, because they were very clear, although the 3 headmasters had never appeared by their side, but they definitely have their own way of monitoring everything that happens in the forest. If they stopped to rest, the special training this time was equivalent to a failure. The last 15 kilometers. Everyone hold on. Long Yunjian shouted in a deep voice. We don't know the exact strength of the students from the class of gods, nor do we know how many kilometers they've run. So we have to persevere until the end and finish 50 kilometers. Long Yunjian's prestige as the class monitor caused the other students' spirits to involuntarily be roused. Long Yunjian continued, We don't want to be fast, we just want to be steady. We just want to finish the race and complete our first special training mission since we came to Class of God. The students gritted their teeth and took a deep breath. That's right. You don't need to be faster than the students from the Class of Gods to complete the 50-kilometer weight-bearing cross-country run. He just wanted to persevere and complete the entire journey. This was their special training. It wasn't just that they didn't want the students of the Class of Gods to look down on them. Chapter 2231. Long Yunjian's encouragement made Devil Class's students perk up as they dragged their increasingly heavy bodies and ran forward with all their might. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows rose slightly as she looked at Long Yunjian with interest. This lad usually didn't utter a single word. Now he knew how to encourage his brothers, and he even specially mentioned the Class of Gods. Others might not have heard it, but Yi Qing Luo heard it clearly. Long Yunjian didn't want to lose to the Class of Gods. This sudden battle intent. Was it because he was unhappy with the Class of Gods? Or was it because of Si Minghan? Oh, the night had darkened once again. In the dense forest, there wasn't a single ray of light. Only in the surroundings of the forest, separated by a long distance, would there be a luminous pearl. In the dense forest, indistinctly, there was an extremely weak glow. The students of the Class of Gods had long gone on their own, pulling a long distance apart. The ones walking in front were Si Minghan, Yanyu, and a female student and 2 male students following behind Yanyu. Through the direction of the luminous pearls, Yanyu was sweating profusely as she panted heavily. We should be arriving soon. The female student Iluo's legs turned into jelly as she held on to her breath and followed beside Yanyu, as though she was comforting herself and also answering Yanyu, soon. We are only left with 5 kilometers. The last 5 kilometers. They had run for 45 kilometers, although the time was nearing 9 o'clock. But they were the last 5 kilometers, as long as they completed the entire journey. Even if they were a little late, it didn't matter. Yanyu shook her sweaty eyelashes as her forehead was filled with perspiration, causing the strands of hair on her forehead to stick together. She panted heavily as she laughed softly. All right, we'll be there soon. Devil Class, that bunch of trash, absolutely cannot finish the entire journey. Iluo nodded her head. Repeatedly, that bunch of trash can only run 10 to 20 kilometers, and that's already their limit. Moreover, they have to bear the 80-kilogram gravity belt. No matter how awe-inspiring they are in the Heavenly Academy, when they come to our Class of Gods, they're just trash. Yan Yu's eyes were filled with joy as she laughed complacently. Right, no matter how awe-inspiring the bunch of trash were in the Heavenly Academy. Now, they were standing on the turf of the class of gods. That was an ant. He was trash. Save your energy. You might not be able to last the last 5 kilometers. Si Mingan's voice was hoarse as he glanced at Yan Yu coldly. If not for the actual combat training, the magical beasts in the forest were too ferocious. He couldn't be bothered to waste too much energy killing demonic beasts. He really didn't want to run with these gossipy and narrow-minded classmates. Yan Yu and Si Minghan had never gotten along. At this moment, hearing Si Mingan's sarcasm, Yan Yu's face was filled with mockery. Whether or not we can hold on is not Student C's concern. However, I believe that the trash that Student C is worried about is definitely unable to hold on. Si Minghan was in the God class. He was talented and had the care of teacher Xinqing. Yan Yu had always been jealous of Si Minghan, especially now that he saw Si Minghan trying to curry favor with a useless girl from a useless class. She felt embarrassed. There was also a ball of nameless fire in his heart. He wanted to mock Si Minghan. Let Si Minghan know how shameful it was to love a piece of trash. Chapter 2232. Yan Yu stared at his hands, her eyes blazing. Trash will always be trash. They can't even complete 1 round of training. How can they be fit to train with us? Her voice was extremely sharp and harsh. Si Minghan frowned in annoyance. It's not just the devil class who can't complete the training. There are at least a few students in the class who can't complete it. The distance between them and the students from the class of God behind them was getting further and further, although they would undergo this kind of training every day. But this was their first time going through such a long distance training of 50 kilometers. Because of this, the students from the class of God couldn't take it anymore after running for more than 30 kilometers. A few of the students from the class of God had set their goal of running 40 kilometers. Because of this, when Yan Yu heard Si Mingan's words, her expression changed. She suppressed her anger and sneered disapprovingly. Ha! Even if the students from the class of God can't complete it, they can at least run 40 kilometers. That bunch of trash from the devil class, it's already not bad if they can run 20 kilometers. She snorted coldly, turned her head, and continued to run with all her might. Only the last 5 kilometers. At the end, they would be the first students to complete the entire course. What right did the devil class have to challenge them? On what basis did they think they could win against the class of God? Si Minghan frowned, looked at Yan Yu and the other students, and moved his heavy footsteps, jogging forward. He clenched his fists tighter. Suddenly, he turned his head and ran in a different direction. Si Minghan. Hearing the sound, Yan Yu turned her head and glared in Si Mingan's direction. The last 5 kilometers, don't tell me you're giving up. Looking at Si Mingan's running speed, it was obvious that he had extra energy. To Si Minghan, although 50 kilometers was strenuous, he could barely complete it. But Si Minghan actually turned his head and ran back. And as he ran, he took off the weights on his hands and feet. He violated the rules of the special training and gave up on this training. Did he know that he would be punished for disobeying the teacher's orders? Yan Yu leaned against a nearby tree, gasping for breath as he stared in the direction that Si Minghan had disappeared. There seemed to be an ice-cold, venomous snake crawling in his heart. His eyes were cold and gloomy, as if they were dipped in poison. Iluo gritted her teeth in anger. That bunch of people from Devil Class, not only are they trash, they're also vixens. They actually seduced Si Minghan to the point that he lost his mind, to the point that he doesn't even care about the training this time. The 2 male students at the side nodded repeatedly. A person who doesn't care about himself for the sake of a woman won't be able to achieve great things. Isn't it just a piece of trash? He actually went back to look for that piece of trash himself. Perhaps that woman has already been carried down. The 3 of them spoke one after another. Their original intention was to humiliate Si Minghan and the bunch of trash in Devil Class, to make Yan Yu happy. Unexpectedly, Yin Yu's face became more and more unsightly. Iluo gave the two male students a look, signaling them to shut up. Iluo carefully held onto Yen Yu's arm and said in a low voice, "Yen Yu, Si Minghan voluntarily gave up on the training. It has nothing to do with us. What we need to do now is to immediately finish the last 5 kilometers and give Devil Class Trash a show of strength." Yen Yu clenched her fingers. She retracted her gaze hatefully, no longer paying attention to the direction that Si Minghan had disappeared to. Chapter 2233. Si Minghan ignored Yen Yu's advice and insisted on leaving. In the last 5 kilometers, Yen Yu burst out with unprecedented potential. Gritting her teeth, she persisted and rushed out of the actual combat training forest. However, at this moment, an extremely loud and clear bell, tolling, resounded throughout the entire sky. Yen Yu's body stiffened and her face turned pale. That was the sound of the bell, indicating that it was time. Now it was already past the hour. In other words, they didn't complete the special training within the allotted time. "Yen Yu, it's all right. Even if we didn't finish within the allotted time, the other students didn't either. At least we are the first batch to finish the 50 kilometers. Iluo comforted her softly. Other than them, there was no one else in the class of gods. Even if they didn't finish within the allotted time, that was still the first place. Yen Yu took a deep breath. That's right. No matter what, she finished the entire distance as a sign of respect for the teacher's special training. She gritted her teeth, took a deep breath, and rushed towards the direction of the physical training field. Soon, they arrived at the training field. 3 masters were standing in the middle of the huge training ground, discussing something with each other. Their expressions were extremely solemn, as if they were arguing about something. Yen Yu looked around. There were no other students on the training field. She was the first to finish the entire distance and arrive at the training field. The corners of her lips curled up uncontrollably into a smug smile. She shook off Iluo's hand and walked forward with weak steps. Yen Yu did not speak first because she wanted to attract the attention of the 3 masters and let them praise her. But the 3 teachers were arguing more fiercely. They didn't even notice Yen Yu's approach. Yen Yu was completely ignored by the 3 headmasters. She bit her lower lip and swayed for a long time, realizing that the 3 teachers had no intention of paying attention to her. She was about to remind them, but she vaguely heard the teachers arguing, as if she heard the Devil Class and Yi Qing Luo's name. But before she could listen carefully, she heard Fat Master coughing violently. "Student Yen Yu, you also completed the 50 kilograms of weight run, right? Although it was a little late, but your determination to finish the 50 kilometers is worth learning." The voices of the other 2 teachers stopped arguing. When they looked at Yen Yu again, a kind smile appeared on their faces. Yen Yu felt a chill down his spine from the laughter of the 3 teachers. Why? She didn't feel that Fatty Master was happy because she ran 50 kilometers. Furthermore, what did the word also mean? Yen Yu did not have time to think. The fat teacher had already called for them to go to the side and ask teacher Xinqing for a water bag. The few of them were drenched in sweat from running and were about to fall to the ground. As soon as he heard about the water bag, he immediately pulled Yen Yu to look for Master Xinqing to get the water bag. After receiving 4 water bags, they gathered together and drank all the water in the bag. Seeing Yen Yu's unhappy expression, Iluo comforted. "Yen Yu, don't think too much about it. You're the first student to complete a 50-kilometer weight-bearing cross-country run. This is also our first time running such a long distance. The headmaster must be too excited." Yen Yu gripped the water bag in his hand tightly, his eyes filled with ruthlessness. How could she not feel the headmaster's excitement? Those 3 old men actually didn't even have a word of praise. Chapter 2234. Now, she had finally completed it, but she was just late by a little bit. Those 3 old men actually treated her in this way? "Yen Yu, Didn't Devil Class's student called Yi Qing Luo say that they would not be carried out of the training forest and would definitely complete all the special training? No one from their class has appeared on the training grounds. The male student could tell the dissatisfaction and resentment in Yan Yu's heart. He hurriedly directed the topic towards Devil Class. As expected, Yan Yu's anger was directed towards Devil Class's students. She gripped the water bag tightly and fiercely threw it on the ground. The corners of her mouth curled into a cold sneer. That group of trash is just relying on their ignorance to spout nonsense. Just based on a group of trash like them, I can easily pinch them to death with a flick of my finger. Seeing that Yan Yu's attention was diverted, Iluo immediately nodded her head in agreement. That's right, that's right. We are the first to complete 50 kilometers of load-bearing cross-country. Even if Devil Class really has students who completed 50 kilometers, they would be after us. I don't know where they got their faces from to challenge us. Now they're kicked to the cold bench. The male student echoed along. Hearing the few of them humiliating Devil Class and Yi Qing Luo, Yan Yu's heart was incomparably savage. She hated Yi Qing Luo and hated her. Now that there was such a chance to humiliate Yi Qing Luo, she would absolutely not let it go. The few of them chimed in one after another, chatting happily. They were even discussing how to humiliate Yi Qing Luo when they met her later. After the three masters finished discussing their own matters, they then noticed that Yan Yu and the other students were huddled by the side, apparently extremely complacent. They frowned as their gazes turned towards a certain direction, just as they were about to open their mouths to stop Yan Yu and the rest. Another 2 students from the class of gods jogged over in exhaustion. Another 2 students from class of gods had completed the entire course. Yan Yu and the rest went up to them and passed them 2 water bags as they flattered each other. When the students from class of gods heard that Devil Class's students had not even seen their shadows, they started to laugh in ridicule. Previously, Devil Class's students had spouted nonsense and humiliated the entire class of gods. The truth had proven that Devil Class's students were a bunch of trash. They still had the cheek to be arrogant in front of them. Who knew where he got his confidence from? You're running in front, so you don't know earlier. Devil Class's leader, that little slut called Yi Qing Luo, was desperately pleading for my help, hoping that I could bring her out. After the male student finished drinking the water, he became energetic and began to brag. I didn't agree with her, but she actually wanted to use her face to seduce me. The male student patted his chest, his eyes filled with love as he looked at Yan Yu and said, Everyone knows that I like student Yan Yu. She's just a slut and she wants to seduce me. I just dumped her. The other students laughed mockingly, and their ambiguous gazes swept between the male student and Yan Yu. Yan Yu rolled her eyes as she arrogantly pushed the male student's face to one side. I allow you to like me, but I've never agreed to be together with you. Since Yi Qing Luo wants to seduce you, just agree to it directly. At least that face of hers is indeed beautiful. The male student pressed his heart as if to show his loyalty. My feelings for Yen you can be witnessed by the sun and the moon. I don't like the other shameless sluts. Chapter 2235. The few students roared with laughter. Yan Yu's mood was lifted by the male student's boasting. Suddenly, a clear voice floated over from the spacious training ground. Yo, this student, when did I tempt you to bring me out of the training forest? As the person involved, why don't I know about it? This voice was extremely pleasing to the ears, but the words that came out were filled with an incomparably chilly chill. The few students who were still boasting instantly felt a chill down their spines as all their mocking voices were stuck in their throats. They saw a red figure leisurely walking out from the darkness at the corner of the training ground where the weapons rack was placed. The young lady's fine black hair was tied up tightly behind her head without a single strand of hair left. The red outfit clung tightly to her petite figure. Her body was drenched in sweat. but her expression didn't show any signs of fatigue. Instead, her lips were curled into a faint smile. When the few class of God students' gazes fell onto Yi Qing Luo's face, they drew in a breath of cold air in disbelief. Yi Qing Luo, why was she here? And the direction she walked out from was the opposite direction of the training grounds entrance, which meant to say, didn't Yi Qing Luo just complete 50 kilometers of weight-bearing cross-country and return to the training ground? Instead, she had been here since long ago? No. Impossible. How could Yi Qing Luo possibly complete 50 kilometers of weight-bearing cross-country faster than them? You must have forfeited in advance, unable to complete this special training. So you returned to the training ground earlier. That boasting male student pointed at Yi Qing Luo as he took a few steps back in disbelief. Yi Qing Luo's brows rose as her gorgeous face blossomed into a beautiful smile. How could I forfeit in advance? If I forfeit in advance, who is the lady who shamelessly pestered you and begged you to bring her out of the training forest? The male student's face turned pale. This was something he had casually boasted about. He didn't expect that the person in question would hear everything. However, when he saw the look in Yan Yu's eyes, the male student made up his mind. He clenched his teeth and said angrily, Yan Yu, look at her. She admitted it herself. She shamelessly tried to seduce me into taking her away from the training forest. Yan Yu's face was sinister as his eyes were filled with viciousness. Yi Qing Luo, I don't care who you seduced to come back here, but special training is after all special training. Isn't it too disgusting for you to use such underhanded methods? Yes, it is indeed disgusting. Yi Qing Luo nodded in agreement. An alluring smile hung on her lips, but the chill in her eyes revealed a bone-chilling coldness. The quality of the students in the class of gods indeed disgusts me. You, Yi Qing Luo, you're still trying to quibble. When the male student saw that, he immediately reprimanded her angrily. I rejected your seduction, and that means my quality isn't good enough? What kind of logic is this? Yi Qing Luo covered her mouth and smiled enchantingly. Her long and narrow eyes gazed at the male student with a light smile, since the male student said that I seduced you earlier then. Tell me, when did I seduce you? Just 1 hour ago, in the training forest. You couldn't run, so you kept pestering me. The male student replied in a fluster. 1 hour ago. Yi Qing Luo's slender fingers brushed past her pink lips. Her posture was elegant and dignified, charming everyone. Chapter 2236. Half an hour ago. The male student's eyes widened in disbelief. You're talking nonsense. Half an hour ago. We were all in the actual combat training forest. How could you? How could it be? His face turned pale as he stared at Yi Qing Luo, unable to believe her words. It wasn't only this male student who couldn't believe it. The students from the class of God couldn't believe this fact. The students from the class of God, had carried weights for 50 kilometers and were not able to reach the training grounds within the allotted time. Devil class's waste. How could it be possible for them to be resting in the training grounds an hour earlier? Unless Yi Qing Luo gave up the special training midway. Yan Yu's pretty face turned pale, as though she had found an excuse. She stared fiercely at Yi Qing Luo. Didn't the devil class spout nonsense that you wouldn't be carried out of the training forest? Didn't you dare to challenge the master? You actually gave up the special training midway. If the devil class's students are so disinterested in the special training, then what's the point of coming to the class of God? The few students from the class of God immediately understood what was going on when they heard that. Yi Qing Luo must have given up the special training and returned to the training grounds early. Yi Qing Luo's throat emitted a soft laughter. It's not important whether I gave up the special training or not. What's important is that, student, even if you're in the class of God all year round, living a high and mighty life, you should also know how important reputation is to a lady. She was still laughing. Her smile was brilliant, like a gorgeous rose that had bloomed. But that smile didn't reach her eyes. Just one look at her made one feel an indescribable cold wind seeping into their skin. It was extremely cold. The male student's legs turned to jelly as he looked at Yi Qing Luo, shivering. Yi Qing Luo took a step closer and smiled sweetly. You've ruined my reputation. Spreading rumors about me, tell me. How are you going to compensate me? An invisible pressure was released, pressing down in an overwhelming manner. The male student's pupils suddenly dilated, as though he had seen something shocking. He actually sat down on the ground. The other students from the class of God felt extremely embarrassed. Their faces were burning hot. No one was willing to help the male student up. Yan Yu looked at Yi Qing Luo's complacent look and clenched his fingers tightly as he raised his finger and pointed at Yi Qing Luo, speaking in a righteous manner. I understand Pei Huan's character very well. He's not someone who speaks irresponsibly. If this matter hadn't really happened, Pei Huan would absolutely not say that. The male student named Pei Huan saw that his goddess was speaking up for him. He nodded vigorously. That's right. I saw you in the training forest an hour ago. You were the one who seduced me and wanted me to take you out of the forest. You said that you were already resting in the training grounds an hour ago. Who can guarantee that after you gave up the special training, you intentionally sneaked into the training forest, hoping to find a student from the class of gods to be your backing? Iluo gave a cold humph. Her eyes filled with disdain towards Yi Qing Luo. When Yi Qing Luo heard that, she burst out laughing with a puffed sound. Why were all the students in the class of gods so retarded? Did they really think of themselves as the top student of the Heavenly Academy? She was so retarded that she didn't even want to complain. Yi Qing Luo raised her eyelids lazily. She looked as though she couldn't be bothered to continue talking to them as she directly turned around and walked towards the corner of the weapon rack. Yan Yu's eyes turned red from anger. Yi Qing Luo, are you angry from embarrassment? You have no excuse to rebuke, right? You're the trash from the devil class. Shut up. Chapter 2237. Yan Yu and the rest of the students gritted their teeth as they lowered their heads. Fatty Master walked over. His perfectly round body shook as he walked. Yan Yu lowered her head and clenched her fists tightly as her body tensed up. Just as Fatty Master walked over, she couldn't take it anymore as she raised her head and looked at Fatty Master coldly. Fatty Master, I know what you want to say, but I have something in my heart that I must say. Fatty Master stopped in his tracks as he frowned slightly. He opened his mouth and was about to speak. Yan Yu interrupted again. The students from the devil class are here to undergo special training in the class of gods. However, the devil class doesn't even put the special training in their eyes. Not only did they give up on the special physical training, they even tried to bring the shameless vulgarity of the lower class to our class of gods, attempting to pollute our students. She stared at the fat teacher with determination and did not take his warning gaze to heart. Yan Yu really couldn't understand. Why did Fatty Master stop her and blame Devil Class? It was obviously Devil Class's fault. Why did Fatty Master still want to protect Devil Class? While they were arguing, 3 more students from the class of gods dragged their exhausted bodies over. Coincidentally, they heard Yan Yu's angry roar. A few of the students from the class of gods added fuel to the fire as they explained what had happened to the class of devils. Immediately, the students from class of gods started to despise devil class even more. Student Yan Yu. Teacher, Yi saw that Yan Yu's words were getting more and more bitter as he called out to stop her. He had just opened his mouth when Yan Yu snatched the right to speak. Teacher Yi, I know what you want to say. I also know that from teacher's point of view, there are many things that are not convenient for you to say, but I will help you to say it. Teacher Yi. He was dumbstruck. He didn't even know what he wanted to say, so how did Yan Yu know? Yan Yu looked coldly at Yi Qing Luo, who was sitting at the corner of the weapon rack, and ridiculed. This morning, Student Yi Qing Luo had just arrived at Class of God and pulled teacher Yi along, using Ghost Doctor's reputation to flatter him. Everyone in Class of Gods knows that teacher Yi and the Ghost Doctor have been good friends for many years. Student Yi Qing Luo intentionally made use of Ghost Doctor to flatter teacher Yi. Wasn't it so that teacher Yi would take care of her? Thinking on a deeper level, student Yi Qing Luo is trying to make use of the Ghost Doctor's reputation to make teacher Yi keep her in the Class of Gods. Yan Yu's words made the other Class of God students look at Yi Qing Luo in disdain, pointing towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. His tone was filled with disdain. Teacher Yi's face darkened. They were wholeheartedly focused on guiding the students to improve their strength, but he had forgotten to teach his students how to behave. So, now Yan Yu did not care about the headmaster at all and could express his opinion on behalf of him at will. Listening to the discussions on the other side, Yi Qing Luo gave them a bored look. Soon after, a lofty expression appeared on his face, as if he was looking down on an ant. This gaze immediately caused Yan Yu and the others to feel as if there was a ball of fire burning in their hearts. Yi Qing Luo, what kind of expression is that? Don't tell me you still want to defend yourself. Yan Yu's voice was sharp as he howled in rage. Yi Qing Luo tugged her pink lips as she elegantly stood up from the ground. She walked out from the dark corner once again, but this time, the people who walked out from the dark corner were not only Yi Qing Luo alone, and those people from Devil Class. One after another, their footsteps were steady, confident, and elegant as they appeared in front of everyone. Chapter 2238. When they saw Devil Class's students appearing at the training grounds, looks of disbelief appeared on the faces of the students of the Class of Gods. What was going on? Weren't they in the 50 kilometers of weighted cross-country training? Why were Devil Class's students all at the training grounds? And, they totally didn't look like they had run 50 kilometers. Could it be those Devil Class's students had all given up on the special training? Class of God students thought of themselves. In order not to let Devil Class's students see them as a joke, they had almost died of exhaustion in the actual combat training forest and had to clench their teeth to complete the entire course. But the Devil Class actually used this kind of attitude to treat their special training of the Class of Gods. No matter how they thought about it, their hearts couldn't be balanced. Quibble? I don't think I have anything to quibble about. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips curled up as she gave a charming smile. But I think, Student Yan Yu, you'd better use your brain and think about how to quibble about it. Yan Yu felt a dull pain in her heart from her smile as she had an indescribable, uneasy premonition. Yan Yu suppressed this strange feeling as she took a deep breath and retorted angrily, "What do you mean?" Regarding Student Yan Yu's slander earlier, let's talk about it one by one slowly. Yi Qing Luo smiled calmly. She walked forward slowly, and her footsteps were extremely stable. Her red outfit, which was like the blazing sun, accentuated her beautiful figure to the fullest. Every step she took and every move she took would set off a red afterimage, like a dream or fantasy. The young lady stood firmly in front of Yan Yu, and she was at least 5 steps away from Yan Yu. She caressed the side of her narrow sleeves, the dark golden devil word embroidery as her tone was calm like still water. Firstly, from the beginning till the end, I had never said that Devil Class had given up on the special training. Yi Qing Luo's aura was indeed so strong that it made one unable to withstand it. Yan Yu was even more unable to withstand it. She looked at Yi Qing Luo as her pupils reflected Yi Qing Luo's tranquil and beautiful face. You, don't tell me you're trying to say that Devil Class have all completed the special training? If they didn't give up on the special training, then the only way to appear at the training grounds was to complete the special training. But impossible. Class of God students all shook their heads. No one was willing to believe it. Devil Class in the academy had the nickname of Trash Class 1 Even if they won first place this year, it would just be luck. Most importantly, a 50-kilometer weight-bearing cross-country run. The students of the class of gods, who trained extremely hard every day, were already struggling. How could the devil class complete it? Even if they wanted to save face, they had to be realistic. Class of God students all looked towards Yi Qing Luo. But he saw Yi Qing Luo revealing a brilliant smile under all kinds of ridicule and puzzled gazes. It was as if she couldn't see the ridicule directed at her by the students of the class of gods. She smiled sweetly and said calmly, "Yes, I am." The students of the class of gods were dumbfounded. "What is it?" Wait. Earlier, Yin Yu asked, "Don't tell me the devil class has completed the special training." And later on, Yi Qing Luo replied, "Yes." In other words, was Yi Qing Luo admitting that their devil class had completed the 50-kilogram load of cross-country? Did Yi Qing Luo really not intend to keep her face? Chapter 2239. Yan Yu staggered a few steps back. Her pupils widened as she shook her head in disbelief. "No. Impossible. Yi Qing Luo, are you still so thick-skinned, refusing to admit that you have given up the special training? You are just a waste from the lower class, a bunch of trash. How could it be possible?" As she was speaking, she suddenly thought of something as her eyes shot towards the gloomy faces of Teacher Yi and Fat Teacher. Yan Yu directly blamed Yi Qing Luo for the two masters' ugly expressions. It must be Yi Qing Luo's shamelessness that had infuriated them. "Teacher, you are the most impartial. The first person to complete the 50 kilometers load run is me. Isn't that right? Devil classes students can't possibly complete such a super difficult physical training." As long as the teacher said so, he would definitely be able to give the devil class a hard slap on that slut Yi Qing Luo's face. In the Heavenly Academy, Yi Qing Luo could be arrogant for a while. But in the class of gods, anyone here could easily pinch Yi Qing Luo to death. What right did she have to strut around in the class of gods? Yan Yu clenched her teeth hatefully as she looked at the teachers with a hopeful gaze. The students in the class of gods also quietened down as they looked towards the teachers. Teacher E and Fat Teacher's faces remained gloomy. Their gloomy eyes glanced coldly at Yan Yu. Teacher E pursed his lips tightly as his expression turned cold as he looked at the students in the class of gods and said word by word, "Devil classes students are the first batch to complete the 50 kilometers load run and return to the training ground. Moreover, you have completed the special training more than an hour earlier." Teacher Yi's words were like a lightning strike, striking into the students' hearts. The students only felt their vision turning black as their breathing quickened. What did Teacher E say? Devil class had completed the special training? And, more than an hour earlier? More than an hour earlier. The male student named Pei Huan thought back to the words he had boasted about. Yi Qing Luo had said from the start that he was already at the training ground an hour earlier. It was all true. Fat Teacher looked at the dumbstruck expressions of the students in the class of gods. His expression was dark and gloomy. He was really disappointed in these young students this time. After all, they were the students that he had taught personally. Who would have thought that he would be so ignorant of how to conduct himself? If this matter were to spread out, the high and mighty image of the class of gods would be completely destroyed. Today's special training, the few of us monitored the entire process. From the start to the end, the devil class of students did not cheat at all. They had truly completed the 50 kilometers weighted cross-country run. As the fatty master's words fell, the students of the class of gods fell to the ground, unable to accept what had just happened. They felt as if their pride had been ruthlessly crushed. They had followed the headmaster for so many years. Naturally, he was clear that these two teachers would never speak up for the devil class. This was indeed the truth. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled into a faint smile. That smile was bright and beautiful. However, for no reason at all, it caused a chill to run down one's spine. and one's body and mind immediately stiffened. Following this, let's talk about the matter regarding this student Pei slandering me. Yi Qing Luo looked at Pei Huan smilingly, but there wasn't a hint of a smile in her eyes. Pei Huan's legs immediately turned to jelly as he stammered. I didn't. Chapter 2240. Class of God students' expressions congealed as they looked towards the masters. The masters nodded slightly and turned their heads away, not looking at them, as though they felt ashamed. Class of God students drew in a breath of cold air. The three masters had already testified. Obviously, what Pei Huan said was all lies. Class of God students, although they didn't like and despised the devil class. But in order to boast about his ability in front of Yanyu, he actually slandered a young lady's reputation. If this matter was spread out without the master's testimonies, how was Yi Qing Luo going to conduct herself in the future? This kind of behavior was shameful to them. After all, to them, devil class was just a lower class, a waste who came for special training. Waste's various hoots, they would at most give them a slap on the face and not take it to heart. But Pei Huan's behavior was indeed a disgrace to the class of God. While everyone was using condemning gazes to stare fiercely at Pei Huan, Yi Qing Luo's lips curled up slightly as she smiled calmly. Of course, if what student Pei said is true, then I have the right to suspect that someone is trying to ruin my reputation, disguising as me and sending out an invitation to you. As she said that, her long and narrow eyes squinted slightly. It was indescribably enchanting. It made one's heart palpitate. Class of God students could hear the chill in Yi Qing Luo's words. They could also tell that there was a hidden murderous intent in that pair of eyes. However, even though he clearly knew everything, he couldn't do anything about it. They couldn't help but sink under her charm. This feeling was too strange. Class of God students' hearts couldn't help but tighten as they palpitated wildly. The entire crowd was silent. Yi Qing Luo's smile deepened. Our devil class's students have always acted as a team from the start. Half an hour ago, we were resting here and no one left. That means to say it's your class's students who disguised as me, trying to frame me. She paused as her gaze fixed on Yanyu, and the seniors in Class of God don't care about us foreign students. The only one who has been targeting me since I entered Class of God is only one person. Everyone subconsciously shifted their gaze onto Yanyu. Indeed, from the start to the end, Yanyu had always found devil classes Yi Qing Luo an eyesore. It wasn't that he hated the demon class, but he only hated Yi Qing Luo, this person. Moreover, when he thought about it carefully, after they had returned from their special training, before they could even rest, they were pulled to join in the action of accusing the devil class. Wasn't this all started by Yanyu? Yanyu's face darkened. What are you all looking at me for? I've been burying my head in completing the special training. I don't have the time to plot against a piece of trash. Yi Qing Luo raised her eyebrows. If it's not you, I really can't think of a second candidate unless my enemy has sneaked into the Class of God. She knocked her head in a perplexed manner and turned to look at the two teachers behind her. Fat teacher, Teacher E, this concerns my reputation and the safety of the Class of God. I suggest that you investigate this thoroughly. Student Yi Qing Luo. Teacher E frowned slightly and was about to persuade Yi Qing Luo to resolve the matter. But when he met with Yi Qing Luo's pair of sparkling eyes, his persuasion words were stuck in his throat, unable to spit out a single word. Chapter 2241. You, who do you think you are? I didn't do that. Yanyu's pretty face turned colder. You're just a waste from the lower class. What right do you have to investigate me? Yi Qing Luo raised her brows and nodded thoughtfully. That's true. Why don't we go to the faculty council and look for President C? Yanyu's pupils shrank. Yi Qing Luo smiled again. President C is a student of the Class of Gods. He won't be biased. Yanyu's slender fingers curled up tightly. as if she couldn't wait to teach Yi-Ching Luo a lesson. How could she let the faculty council intervene in the affairs of the class of gods? Once the faculty council intervened, today's matter would be spread throughout the entire Heavenly Academy. The reputation of the class of gods would be completely ruined. Yan Yu is so resistant to the investigation. Could it be? Yi-Ching Luo opened her mouth and put on a surprised look. It's really the word Yu hadn't left her mouth. With a thud, Pei Huan knelt in front of Fatty Teacher and Teacher Yi. He seemed to be unable to bear the torture and cried in a hoarse voice, "Teacher, I know I'm wrong. I shouldn't have been so vain. I shouldn't have lied in front of Yan Yu and slandered Yi-Ching Luo." The whole place was silent again. Pei Huan was the only one who continued to cry and repeat the words he had said. After a while, the fat master glanced at Yi-Ching Luo with his narrow eyes. Yi-Ching Luo, since Pei Huan has realized his mistake, Yi-Ching Luo glanced at Pei Huan, who was kneeling on the ground, and smiled innocently. Pei Huan is teacher's student. I have no opinion on how to deal with him. The fat master's words were stuck in his throat. She was his student. A student made such a mistake. As a teacher, he wouldn't let it go so easily. He was afraid that other students would follow suit. Yi-Ching Luo had no opinion on it. However, her words had completely blocked his way of exonerating Pei Huan. Then, Pei Huan will be punished with 1 month's worth of resources. All other resources will be cancelled. Teacher Yi closed his eyes and announced Pei Huan's punishment. Pei Huan's eyes widened in horror. Teacher Yi, spare me. Teacher Yi, spare me. You can hit me or scold me, but don't cancel my resources. No. Resources were equivalent to the elixirs, secret manuals, or cultivation methods provided by the Academy. Cultivating the profound rank. If he slacked off for a day or two, others would easily catch up to him. Let alone a month's worth of resources. 1 month could be the difference of a grade, or even a mystic grade. Teacher Yi waved his hand, indicating for Pei Huan to leave. Pei Huan knew that it was hopeless to plead for leniency, so he suppressed the grief in his heart and stared at Yi-Ching Luo furiously before leaving dejectedly. Pei Huan's departure caused the atmosphere in the surroundings to turn strange. Yi-Ching Luo elegantly and indifferently tugged the corners of her lips as she looked at Yan Yu, the smile in her eyes spreading out. Next, let's talk about the third point. Yan Yu was frightened by her gaze and staggered backward. Yi-Ching Luo pressed forward. Her smile was as brilliant as a rose blooming, captivating one's soul. I'm very curious. Why is student Yan Yu always making things difficult for me? Logically speaking, I'm just a student of the class of devils, and your high and mighty class of gods wouldn't even bother to interact with us. Chapter 2242. I'm jealous of you. Yan Yu seemed to have heard something funny and couldn't stop laughing. You're just trash from a lower class. Why would I be jealous of you? Yi-Ching Luo's brows rose in ridicule as her lips curled into a cold sneer. If it's not jealousy, then how do you explain why student Yan Yu has repeatedly targeted me? How did I target you? You're just trash from a lower class. What's there for me to target? Yan Yu roared angrily. Yi-Ching Luo shrugged her shoulders and spread out her hands. Could it be that I sensed wrongly? Her gaze swept across the students of the class of gods. Seeing this, the students from the class of gods looked away. It was obvious that he had tacitly agreed. Class of god students could obviously feel that Yan Yu had been targeting Yi-Ching Luo. Yan Yu was so angry that her face turned white. I just didn't. In my eyes, you are nothing but an ant. Yi-Ching Luo burst out laughing. I wonder how student Yan Yu would feel after losing to an inferior class's trash, an ant in this special training. Yi-Ching Luo laughed out loud. Yan Yu's delicate body trembled in anger. Yi-Ching Luo didn't wait for her to finish her sentence as she snatched a step forward and laughed lowly. Student Yenyu is even more useless than the lower class's waste, even more insignificant than an ant. No wonder, Student Yen, you couldn't accept it in her heart. So her brain turned hot and her mouth was full of sh*t. Yenyu's beautiful face twisted uncontrollably. The fury in his heart and hatred towards Yi Qing Luo continued to spread. Yi Qing Luo totally didn't give Yenyu any chance to open his mouth. Her gaze was calm as she looked at Teacher Yi. Student Yen, you said that I used Master Ghost Doctor to achieve my goals. Not only is this an insult to me, it's also an insult to my Master Ghost Doctor. More importantly, it's an insult to the intellect of all the teachers here. Teacher Yi's eyes were deep as he sized up the calm-looking girl. His heart couldn't help but tighten, looking at Yi Qing Luo's solemn look. Could it be that she really was the Ghost Doctor's disciple? You still want to quibble? If you're the Ghost Doctor's disciple, then show me the evidence. Show me the evidence. What proof do you have? You're Ghost Doctor's disciple. Yenyu pointed at Yi Qing Luo hysterically. How could she be so calm? What right did she have to act as if victory was already in her grasp? Without any evidence, she would forever be a scheming B***tsh who made use of the Ghost Doctor's reputation. Me. Suddenly, a deep and icy cold voice resounded. That voice wasn't loud, but it contained a terrifying aura. Everyone was taken aback and looked in the direction of the voice. An old man dressed in apothecary robes slowly walked over. The old man was upright and meticulous from head to toe. He exuded an incomparably noble demeanor, the demeanor of an expert. Following his steps, everyone could clearly smell the faintly discernible scent of herbs coming from the old man's body. It was refreshing, but not too strong. It didn't smell bitter. Instead, it made one feel refreshed and tired. This is the Ghost Doctor. Class of God students stared blankly at the approaching old man as the two words Ghost Doctor appeared in their minds. These students from Class of God, in order to show that they were different from the other classes in the Heavenly Academy, had always been cooped up in Class of God, unwilling to interact with those trash. Occasionally, for the sake of the Academy's limelight, they would make an appearance. Chapter 2243. As of now, the students in Class of Gods probably didn't even remember the director's looks clearly. This was also the reason why Yi Qing Luo was famous in Heavenly Academy and even in the Western continent, but the students in Class of Gods didn't recognize Devil Class, and the reason why they didn't recognize Yi Qing Luo. When Ghost Doctor appeared in Class of Gods, the students finally understood what was going on, what was called aura. There was a type of person who just stood there. Then you would know who he was. Ghost Doctor was this kind of person. But when the students in Class of Gods regained their senses from the shock, the expressions on their faces changed drastically. With a look of disbelief, they stared at Yi Qing Luo. Earlier Ghost Doctor seemed to have said one word. What he meant was, he was the evidence. He was the evidence of Yi Qing Luo's master? That's right. Ghost Doctor himself had appeared personally. Wasn't he the best evidence? Could it be that Yi Qing Luo was really Ghost Doctor's disciple? Otherwise, why would Ghost Doctor personally come to Class of Gods to clear Yi Qing Luo's name? No. Yenyu's pupils kept dilating as she stared at Ghost Doctor's approaching figure, trembling like a sieve. Just as Ghost Doctor walked nearer, Yenyu suddenly pointed at Yi Qing Luo, her face filled with hatred as she howled. Sir Ghost Doctor, you heard that someone used your disciple's name to swindle people. So you specially came over to catch her. It's her, it's this slut. She had been making use of your reputation to cheat Master and even us. Right, that's right. Ghost Doctor must be here to catch the swindler. Yi Qing Luo, that trash. How could she possibly be Ghost Doctor's disciple? Who was Ghost Doctor? She had heard Master ridiculing Ghost Doctor more than once. For someone like Ghost Doctor who was afraid of trouble, how could he possibly take in a disciple? When the students in Class of Gods heard that, their gazes immediately fell onto Yi Qing Luo. The expressions on their faces also had some changes. Hearing Yan Yu's words, they immediately felt that Ghost Doctor was here to catch the swindler who used his reputation to swindle people. But that bunch of trash in Devil Class, what was with their pitiful gazes? Sir Ghost Doctor, catch her and interrogate her properly. She had been using your name to bully others in Class of Gods. Now that Sir Ghost Doctor is here personally, let's see if she still has any face left to continue acting. When Yan Yu saw that the Ghost Doctor didn't speak for a long time, she became more and more anxious. His words became sharper and sharper. Teacher, he glared at her, signaling her to shut up. Then he welcomed the Ghost Doctor. Old Ghost Doctor, why are you in the mood to come to the Class of Gods? The Ghost Doctor avoided Teacher Yi's touch and coldly swept her gaze over Yan Yu and the students present. But he did not look in the direction of the Devil Class. Teacher, Yi felt a headache coming on. He coughed dryly and said, "It's just a joke between the students. It's just a small matter. Don't take it to heart." Small matter? The Ghost Doctor finally spoke, her voice deep and cold. Teacher Yi was well aware that this was the precursor to the Ghost Doctor's wrath. He furrowed his brows, feeling a headache coming on. I'll deal with this. You should know that the students of the Class of Gods aren't friendly to students from other classes. As for that student, I'm sure he just wanted to establish himself in the Class of Gods, so he used the wrong method. The Ghost Doctor scoffed coldly. Teacher, he only felt that the surrounding air had turned colder by several degrees. When Fatty Teacher saw that, he hurriedly put on a smile and walked over. Ghost Doctor, what oldie said is right. They're all kids. Don't be too calculative. It's rare for you to come over, and we haven't gathered for a long time. Why don't we go to the backyard for a drink? Chapter 2244. The whole place was silent. Teacher Yi's hand, which was reaching for the Ghost Doctor, froze in midair. The fat teacher's smiling face stiffened. The surrounding students sucked in a breath of cold air, incomparably shocked. What did the Ghost Doctor say? His disciple? Disciple? Yi Qing Luo was really Ghost Doctor's disciple? Just when everyone was filled with doubts, Devil Class's 10 students all surrounded Ghost Doctor as they greeted him with a beaming face. Sir Ghost Doctor, you're finally here. If you didn't come, our Qing Luo would be bullied to death. Yan Xiao Yi intentionally leaned closer to Ghost Doctor's side as she gave Yan Yu a meaningful look. That's right, Sir Ghost Doctor. Some students in the Class of Gods kept on insulting our Qing Luo, saying that she is a little slut who uses your reputation to cheat others. They feel that our Devil Class doesn't have any backing and we can't win against them. A few Devil Class students nodded their heads in agreement. Each of them was more aggrieved than the other. The flames around the Ghost Doctor's body grew increasingly cold. The students of the Class of Gods shuddered involuntarily. Normally, no matter how high and mighty they were, no matter how proud they were. However, when facing powerful seniors like the headmaster, he would still listen to them obediently. Now that the Ghost Doctor was angry, the students of the Class of Gods knew that they were in the wrong and lowered their heads, not daring to make a sound. Teacher Yi was stunned as well. He watched helplessly as Ghost Doctor turned around, walking towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. The Devil Class students all opened up a path. In a direction that the Ghost Doctor couldn't see, they looked towards Yan Yu. The grievance on their faces was replaced by pity and sympathy. Anger invaded Yan Yu's limbs and bones. Her face was malevolent as she stared venomously at Yi Qing Luo. Unable to believe that Ghost Doctor was really real, he walked towards Yi Qing Luo. This group of trash. What right did he have to look at her like that? Why should he pity her, sympathize with her? She was a student of the high and mighty Class of Gods. He was a talented, profound practitioner who could ascend to the upper realm in the future. What right did this bunch of trash have to look down on her? But Yenyu saw with his own eyes. Ghost Doctor walked to Yi Qing Luo's side, raising his hand which had always been used to refining pills. He rubbed Yi Qing Luo's head. "Little Luo, I'm not here and you start to cause trouble?" The ghost doctor's voice was still very cold, but anyone could tell that this kind of coldness, compared to the coldness she had shown to the others earlier, was like a completely different person. Yi Qing Luo rubbed against Ghost Doctor's palm as she revealed a sweet smile. "I'm an obedient and well-behaved student who has never created any trouble." The Ghost Doctor rolled her eyes at her. "How do you want to deal with this matter?" Yi Qing Luo raised her brows and looked at Teacher Yi. The three masters were stunned by the scene in front of them. The students of the Devil class had completed the 50 kilograms weight run an hour earlier. They were already very shocked and astonished. Today, the news of Yi Qing Luo being Ghost Doctor's disciple had been personally verified by Ghost Doctor himself. Furthermore, the Ghost Doctor, who had always been afraid of trouble, had personally come to the class of gods to support his disciple. It could be seen that the Ghost Doctor truly doted on her little disciple, this lady called Yi Qing Luo. Just where did she come from? Now, Ghost Doctor actually wanted to ask Yi Qing Luo how to deal with these people who had wrongly accused her and slandered her, directly bypassing these few masters. It could be seen that Ghost Doctor was really infuriated. Chapter 2245. Yi Qing Luo's words also successfully stopped the masters from pleading on behalf of their students. Ghost Doctor had personally come to support his disciple. If they didn't punish this student who had been targeting Ghost Doctor's disciple, that would be not giving Ghost Doctor any face, although they were all experts who came down from the upper realm. But in front of Ghost Doctor, they were nothing. The three masters' expressions stiffened as they hurriedly stepped forward. "The three of us will handle this matter properly and will not be biased." Ghost Doctor's face was gloomy as he gave a cold snort. The three masters lowered their heads as they stared at Yenyu hatefully. Yenyu felt as though something had exploded in her brain. It was as if something had collapsed. Her vision turned black as she fell limply onto the ground. The students who had always been on good terms with Yen, you didn't dare to step forward to help her, afraid that Yi Qing Luo's anger would be directed to them. Luo bit her lower lip as she looked at Yenyu, wanting to step forward, but not daring to. Yi Qing Luo sneered as she took in the entire scene. She scoffed lightly as her eyes were filled with disdain and despise towards Yenyu. No matter if it was the Heavenly Academy or this self-proclaimed high and mighty class of gods, it was inevitable for them to be the same as ordinary people. This was human nature. No matter how they were on good terms and treated each other honestly, once it involved their own interests, they would fall out faster than flipping a book. "Hurry and carry her down." Teacher Yi glanced at the group of students who were trembling in fear. This group of students only knew how to bully the weak and fear the strong. Usually their eyes grew on top of their heads. In front of Ghost Doctor, all of them were frightened to such an extent. The masters expressed that it was shameful to have taught such a student. Those students actually turned their gazes towards Ghost Doctor, although they were taught not to understand the ways of the world. But he saw that the three masters were all extremely respectful towards the Ghost Doctor. They knew clearly that this Ghost Doctor was the real boss. Ghost Doctor didn't say anything, so they didn't dare to carry Yenyu. This action caused the faces of the three teachers to darken. Not waiting for Ghost Doctor to open his mouth, Yi Qing Luo had already laughed out. "Fatty teacher, Teacher Yi, Teacher Shin, although teaching students to raise their abilities and becoming strong is the most crucial thing. But how should I put it? This is the principle of being a human. It's time to teach him." The faces of the masters darkened even more. But due to the Ghost Doctor's presence, he didn't dare to flare up. Yi Qing Luo's charming eyes swept across their expressions and couldn't help but let out a light laugh. "This is the class of God. The three masters are the real masters of the class of God. My master is just a guest." As the students of the class of God, you're trying to take advantage of my master's mood. Where are the faces of the three masters? Even though she was smiling, it was a smile. However, his voice was powerful and resonant, causing people to be shocked. She let go of the ghost doctor's arm, her gaze calm and indifferent as it swept over the students of the class of gods. Perhaps it was because the ghost doctor was present, or perhaps it was because Yi Qing Luo's aura was too majestic. The students of the class of gods instinctively lowered their heads. Yanyu was so infuriated that she was trembling. I'm not teaching you anything. I just want you to know clearly who your masters are, who have always been teaching you, who gave you the right to be so arrogant and supercilious. Yi Qing Luo's voice was calm without any undulations. Chapter 2246. When she said this, her voice paused for a moment. Fatty Master immediately continued. Today's matter is due to our lack of teaching. In the coming month, I guarantee that today's matter will not happen again. As for the three masters, Yi Qing Luo did not have any complaints. After all, Devil class was an outsider class. Class of gods was specially selected by them and nurtured till today. Their feelings were naturally different. It was natural for them to help the class of gods. Previously, she used Ghost Doctor's name to get close to Master Yi. It was because she wanted to have a good training and not let any other messy things happen that would affect her mood and the special training. For example, what had happened now. But she didn't expect that when she mentioned Ghost Doctor, it would implicate even more things. Today, if it wasn't for Ghost Doctor's personal appearance, she would probably be annoyed to death. What's more, she might have to use Ghost Doctor's name to cheat behind the back of that scheming bitch. In order to ensure that the next month's special training would be peaceful, they would leave after it ended. Yi Qing Luo expressed that all the germination must be nipped off today. Master, he placed his hand on Ghost Doctor's shoulder. Old man Ghost Doctor, let's go and let this group of students think it through themselves. Let's go have a drink. Ghost Doctor slapped his hand away without giving him any face. His malicious eyes swept coldly across Master Yi. Old Yi, from what you said earlier, it seems like you had already assumed that my disciple was lying to you. Master, Yi felt a chill down his spine as beads of sweat started to form on his forehead. Ghost Doctor, this is not right of you. After all, this is the class of gods. If a student comes and says that she is your disciple, and I believe it, wouldn't the class of gods be in a mess? Ghost Doctor's lips twitched eerily. My disciple's temperament, this innate talent, she completely said that she is my disciple. How is that not like my disciple? You can't even tell, and you have the cheek to say that you are my close friend for many years? Master, he expressed that he was deliberately making things difficult for her. Although Yi Qing Luo's aura and innate talent were indeed eye-catching, but it didn't mean that he could tell that she was Ghost Doctor's disciple. Master, he knew that Ghost Doctor's words were to help his disciple vent her anger. He had indeed misunderstood that Yi Qing Luo was the kind of young lady who used Ghost Doctor's reputation to cheat others. This was the truth, and there was no way to explain it. He had yet to think of an excuse. A rough and loud male voice rang out. Yes. How can you still have the face to say that you are close friends with that damn old man? He even said that our little girl used extreme methods to gain a foothold in the class of gods. How dare you make such a guess? This voice caused everyone to tremble. The group of people looked in the direction of the sound. Then he saw an old man dressed in a white robe rushing over like the wind. The old man was different from the Ghost Doctor's meticulousness. He had dry hair that seemed to be combed neatly but was actually a mess. His white robe hung loosely on his body, and his expression was ferocious like a crazy old man. He rushed to Yi Qing Luo's side and stretched out his hand to hug her. Yi Qing Luo almost couldn't breathe. Teacher Xin Qing looked at the person in shock and stammered, Sir Gui, my lord? The student sucked in a breath of cold air. What kind of person could make Teacher Xin Qing who had always been lazy and did not care about anything, to be so respectful and even be called Lord. When they heard the two words Gueyu, the other two teachers' expressions changed immediately. Sir Gueyu! Chapter 2247. Master Gui. Why are you here? Master, Yi swallowed his saliva as he looked at Gueyu and Yi Qing Luo in disbelief. They had heard of it before. Gueyu was eyeing Ghost Doctor's disciple. Today they saw the scene. They deeply understood that those words were not fake. Gueyu valued Yi Qing Luo very much. What magic did this young lady called Yi Qing Luo have? She actually made Ghost Doctor and Gueyu, these two, old men who would never fancy anyone and wanted to take anyone as their disciple, to protect her so passionately. Of course, the three masters didn't deny it. Yi Qing Luo's current performance was indeed outstanding, even more outstanding than the students in the class of gods that they had painstakingly taught. But at this level, Ghost Doctor and Gueyu shouldn't be so protective of her, right? Moreover, the Ghost Doctor and the Ghost Doctor, these two seniors, were present. It was natural for Yi Qing Luo to be so outstanding. Gueyu snorted as he glanced at the three masters with a cold smile. He could tell what they were thinking at one glance. He smiled coldly as his shriveled lips twitched. I heard that my last Luo suffered a grievance when she came to the class of gods for special training. If I didn't come, wouldn't my last Luo die of grievance? Master Yi and Fat Master broke out in cold sweat. The students in the class of gods also straightened their backs. Yi Qing Luo wanted to raise her hand several times, weakly expressing that even if they didn't come, she wouldn't let herself suffer. But seeing old man Gueyu's protective look, Yi Qing Luo smiled warmly. Right now, she was no longer alone. She had someone who would protect her. She wasn't fighting alone. I heard that this student feels that last Luo is using my reputation to stay in the class of gods. Ghost Doctor's malicious gaze swept towards Yanyu. Yanyu, who was sprawled on the ground, felt as though she had been targeted by a venomous snake. She shivered and didn't dare to say a word. Seeing this, Mr. E hurriedly explained, "Please don't be angry, sirs. This is a misunderstanding. As you know, the students of the other classes have always yearned for the class of gods. They've been thinking of ways to squeeze into it. Our last Luo is in the devil class, not any other class. Old man Gueyu did not have much patience. If Luo wanted to enter the class of gods, she would have been qualified to do so not long after she entered the academy. The students of the class of gods were shocked. He had just been admitted to the hospital and he already had the qualifications. How was this possible? Even if, old man, you wanted to stand up for Yi Qing Luo, there was no need to use such a method, right? He had boasted too much. It was obvious that he was bragging. One had to know that students like them had all been selected through layers of selection. Their aptitudes and talents were outstanding, and they were above average people in every aspect. It had taken them almost 2 years to successfully enter the class of gods. The Ghost Doctor's cold gaze swept over them. Her voice was cold but powerful. Whether or not the lass really has the qualifications to enter the class of gods, I'm sure the 3 elders can go to the elders department, where you can ask the faculty council's presidency. You'll know. Lass Luo refused to enter the class of gods because of her brothers and the group of children in the class of devils. But I feel that Luo Yu was right to reject me back then. If Luo Yu was allowed to grow up in this kind of atmosphere, how could our lass Luo have such a metamorphosis now? Old man Gueyu had never thought of giving others face when he spoke. Master Yi was too ashamed to show his face, but there was nothing he could refute. They all knew. Chapter 2248. If he wanted to end this situation, he could only start from Yi Qing Luo. Teacher, Yi turned his gaze to Yi Qing Luo and chuckled. Student Yi Qing Luo, I am also responsible for the misunderstanding. The students from the class of gods were rude to the devil class, and I can't get away from it. All these are my fault. I assure you that there will not be a next time. His attitude was very sincere and sincere. It wasn't that he was trying to protect the students and push all the blame onto himself. He had indeed realized that as a teacher, he had not taught his students well, and under the circumstances where there was no evidence, he had accused the foreign students of cheating. Yi Qing Luo actually admired teacher Yi's way of doing things. Even if teacher Yi wanted to protect the students from the class of gods, it was reasonable. The students from the class of gods to teacher Yi was equivalent to her to ghost doctor and Guiyu. It was human nature to protect one's shortcomings. Of course, Yi Qing Luo understood that it was human nature, but it didn't mean that she would let this matter rest just because of teacher Yi's plea. She had said that in order to have a good and quiet training in the class of gods for the next 1 month, she had to nip off all the sprouts that had yet to grow, kill the chicken to warn the monkey. Today, she would be more arrogant and troublesome. It would be much easier in the future. Teacher Yi, from your point of view, it's normal for you to suspect my identity and motive. Yi Qing Luo smiled sweetly. Her eyes were sparkling and filled with tranquil ripples. Under the calm gaze of that pair of eyes, teacher Yi felt cold sweat trickling down his back for no reason. Yi Qing Luo continued to smile, but how can you be 100% sure that they will not target the devil class? Saying that, Yi Qing Luo pointed towards the direction of the students from the class of gods. Because of the arrival of Guiyu and Ghost Doctor, the students who had originally wanted to give up in the training forest rushed over with the help of their classmates. Yi Qing Luo's finger pointed at the entire class of gods, 16 students. Teacher Yi was stunned. The other 2 teachers were also slightly stunned and immediately looked away, unable to be sure. The students from the class of gods were taught by them. The teachers naturally understood their temperaments. If it was really because of Guiyu and the Ghost Doctor that these students would not go against the devil class, this was absolutely impossible. Where I can see it, they can make sure, but they couldn't guarantee that these students wouldn't secretly take revenge on the devil class. They understood the arrogance of the class of gods. Yi Qing Luo's eyes curved into a smile. Teacher, I don't have any intention to make things difficult for you. I just simply hope that our devil class's special training is just a special training, without any other factors. Not only will it affect the progress of our special training, it will also affect the class of God, isn't it? Teacher Yi was rendered speechless by his words. He wiped off the sweat on his forehead. What student Yi Qing Luo said is right. The students in the class of gods also think so. Special training is special training. This is the ladder to raise one's own ability. Disrupting the special training is also disrupting themselves. Teacher Yi's words were a clear attempt to reason with the students of the class of gods. The students of the class of gods were all very perceptive and immediately replied in unison, "We promise we will coexist peacefully with the devil class." Chapter 2249. Immediately a student echoed, That's right, Student Yi Qing Luo, we are very clear on how important the special training is to us. We admit that although we aren't particularly passionate about the devil class, we don't have any intention to purposely target you. There were also a few students from the class of God who wanted to say before the Ghost Doctor and Guiyu appeared. They didn't put the devil class in their eyes at all and were totally disdainful, so they purposely played with the devil class. After that, he followed Yan Yu's words and condemned the devil class. They were merely misled by someone with ulterior motives. Yi Qing Luo didn't make things difficult for those students. She had no interest in taking advantage of her position to bully others. She only wanted to bully the weak. Yi Qing Luo went along with those students' evasive words as she gave a long "oh" and intentionally dragged out the ending sound. That "oh" shocked everyone and gave them goosebumps. Yi Qing Luo's brows rose as she gave an indifferent smile, as what all the students have said then. I'm even more curious. Why is student Yan Yu so dissatisfied with me? Everyone turned to look at Yan Yu in unison. Yan Yu only felt that everyone's gaze was like a burning fire, burning her whole body. She stared furiously at Yi Qing Luo. It was all because of Yi Qing Luo. It's all because of this slut. He had caused her to experience such a predicament. In the class of gods, she might not be the most outstanding student. Nevertheless, he was Teacher Yi's favorite student. Moreover, her beauty made her even more popular among the people. How could she become so embarrassing? It was all Yi Qing Luo's fault. The more he thought, the more Yan Yu's hatred towards Yi Qing Luo grew. This was hatred. Even the onlookers who were standing at the side could see it clearly. The ghost doctor and old man Yu snorted coldly. If it wasn't for Yi Qing Luo holding them back, the both of them would have rushed up and slapped that scum who dared to glare at their Luo lass to death. Teacher Yi's forehead was drenched in cold sweat. Yan Yu's talent was great, and she was also smart. He had always thought highly of this student. Who would have thought that he would become so stupid today? In front of Ghost Doctor and Guiyu, he still dared to show such an expression towards Yi Qing Luo? Yan Yu. Teacher, he gritted his teeth and shouted out Yan Yu's name. Answer me properly. Previously, did you know student Yi Qing Luo? That roar caused Yan Yu to suddenly return to his senses. She pursed her pale lips and shook her head. I don't know him. Then why have you repeatedly targeted Yi Qing Luo? Teacher Yi's brows knitted tightly. Yan Yu clenched her fists, but loosened them weakly. I didn't target. Bullshit. Old man Guiyu spat. Just from the way you look at our Luo girl, I want to slap you to death. Do you think I'm blind? Not targeted yet. If you don't tell me the truth, I'll kill you right now. Yan Yu was so scared that he started trembling. Her eyes reddened and tears welled up in her eyes. However, her pitiful appearance did not arouse anyone's sympathy or pity. Yan Yu, just get straight to the point. What kind of grudge do you and student Yi Qing Luo have? Don't hold up all the students because of your own matters. Exactly. We've run for 50 kilometers. And now, we just want to rest, all right? Just because of your jealousy, you have to drag the entire class to stand here with you. We're not blind. We can all tell that you and student Yi Qing Luo have a huge grudge. I'm also curious, is it really because you're jealous that student Yi Qing Luo is prettier than you, so you've been targeting her? Chapter 2250. Class of Gods students couldn't help but tried to persuade her. They had been running for an entire afternoon and were tired, thirsty, and hungry. They couldn't wait to return to their own rooms to rest. But because of Yan Yu's problem, they were stuck at the training ground. The grumbles and complaints in their hearts were dragged on. Anyone with a discerning eye could see it. Yi Qing Luo didn't even bother about being slandered. She only wanted to know the truth. She wanted to know why Yan Yu was targeting her. Yan Yu still didn't say anything, pretending to be pitiful. The more they looked, the more anxious they got. Yan Yu bit her lower lip hard. Blood seeped out from her pale lips. She didn't seem to notice it. Why did all the students come to condemn her? It was obviously Yi Qing Luo's fault. It was obviously Yi Qing Luo who was creating trouble out of nothing. Why were they still blaming her? Was it because that slut had great abilities and had two big backers? She was not convinced. Student Yan Yu is unwilling to answer. Why not let me guess? Yi Qing Luo's slender brows rose slightly as she slowly walked towards Yan Yu. Yi Qing Luo's steps were elegant and imposing. Yan Yu was so shocked that her body trembled even more violently. Yi Qing Luo stared at her trembling petite body as she tilted her head and smiled. Student Yan Yu, are you feeling guilty? I haven't done anything, and you're so afraid? Yan Yu bit her lips and didn't refute. May I ask the students in Class of God, how is student Yan Yu and that student Zi Qianqian's relationship? Yi Qing Luo didn't beat around the bush and directly asked a question. When the three words Zi Qianqian came out from Yi Qing Luo's mouth, Yan Yu's eyes flickered a few times. The expression on her face was slightly shocked. The other students couldn't wait to end this, so naturally they didn't hide anything. Yan Yu is Zi Qianqian's cousin, and the two sisters have a very good relationship. They usually love to stick together, and Yan Yu loves Zi Qianqian very much. Student Zi Qianqian loves to go to the lower class, I heard. She's also known as the #1 beauty in Heavenly Academy. Fairy Qianqian? Right. I remember she even joined a mercenary group. I heard this time it seems to be Yan Yu's idea for Zi Qianqian to take part in the Heavenly Academy's annual interclass competition. The students were all talking at once. At this point, they seemed to have realized something, and their jaws dropped in shock. Right? The interclass competition. Could it be that Yi Qing Luo had ruthlessly abused Zi Qianqian in the interclass competition? Zi Qianqian had yet to return to the class of gods. So, Yan Yu was helping Zi Qianqian vent her anger? Yi Qing Luo heard the answer she wanted to know from those noisy and messy voices, as she nodded her head in understanding. Student Yan Yu is really a good sister. Yan Yu's face turned pale. She curled her fingers and lowered her head. Her messy hair covered her face. It also covered up the hatred on her face. If it's because of Zi Qianqian, I think. I should explain. Yi Qing Luo looked at Yan Yu smilingly, but Student Yan Yu's love for your own sister is so deep. I don't know if you can take it. What I'm going to say next. Yan Yu suddenly raised his head. Chapter 2251. She died because of me? Yi Qing Luo was amused as she repeated this sentence. How Zi Qianqian died, the entire Heavenly Academy students know it clearly. Your master must have received the news too. Yan Yu looked at her casual smile, and the anger in his eyes burned even more. Yes, Qianqian wasn't killed by you, but you caused her death. If it wasn't for you, Qianqian wouldn't have died. Yan Yu's hoarse voice made Yi Qing Luo laugh. She finally understood why Yan Yu hated her. So it was to stand up for his cousin's sister. And the other students in the class of God had a change of expression when they heard these words. Zi Qianqian is dead. Isn't she doing well in the school? How could she be dead? Yan Yu was killed by Yi Qing Luo? What's going on? Ah, the surroundings were bustling with discussion about Zi Qianqian's death. Hearing the news of Zi Qianqian's death from the crowd, Yan Yu's facial features turned more and more sinister. Silence. Seeing this, teacher, he immediately roared coldly. What are you guys making a ruckus for? The students quietened down. Teacher, he took a look at Yan Yu and sighed. Yan Yu, I already know about Qianqian's death. Yan Yu's scarlet eyes stared at teacher. Hey, you also want to say that this is Qianqian's fault? This was the first time teacher Yi saw Yan Yu disregarding his image. He frowned slightly and turned his gaze to Yi Qing Luo. They indeed knew about Zi Qianqian's death, but they had not expected that the female hero who exposed Zi Qianqian's collaboration with the dark forces and saved the students of the various academies was actually this 15-year-old young lady. Zi Qianqian and Yan Yu's relationship was very close. As teachers, they could see it clearly. He expressed his understanding for Yan Yu to lose control. But teacher Yi sighed again. Although Qianqian's death is related to Yi Qing Luo, but it is true that she deserved to die, and no one can be blamed for it. He paused, and his face turned solemn. If it was me, I would make the same decision as Yi Qing Luo. That's a student you taught yourself. Yan Yu roared. It's precisely because she's my student that I can't let her go down the wrong path. Since you're wrong, you should be punished. Teacher, he knitted his brows tightly, looking at Yan Yu's obviously insane appearance. He sternly stopped her from roaring and retorting. Yan Yu, you're a smart student and you should be able to differentiate between right and wrong. If you insist on blaming Zi Qianqian's mistake and implicate Yi Qing Luo, then I can only send you to High Profound Class 2. Yan Yu's face was pale as he knelt on the ground in a daze. Send him to High Profound Class 2? The meaning was kick her out of the class of gods? She wasn't wrong, she just wanted to seek justice for her sister. Qian Qian was killed by Yi Qing Luo. Why was she the one to be punished in the end? For Yi Qing Luo, teacher, he actually wanted to chase her out of the class of gods? That bitch. Yan Yu. Seeing the growing hatred in Yan Yu's eyes, Teacher Yi was exasperated. Did she really want to go to High Profound Class 2? Even now, he still couldn't figure out the problem. Chapter 2252. Teacher Yi's body stiffened slightly. This? Lord Guiyu. It's not that Yan Yu didn't realize her mistake, but she cared too much about Zi Qianqian. I have eyes. I'm not a fool, either. Old man Guiyu sneered. Old, don't say that I didn't give you face. It's your student who didn't care about face. I know. Teacher Yi was also very anxious, but Yan Yu's heart was clouded by hatred at this time. The ghost doctor, who had been silent and emitting an icy aura, glanced at Yan Yu with a sinister gaze, before shifting his gaze away. He moved his lips, his voice cold and dignified. Zi Qianqian, this student called Yan Yu is targeting little Luo because of Zi Qianqian, the traitor of the Nirvana realm? Perhaps the ghost doctor's voice was too cold. Perhaps Zi Qianqian's name had stimulated Yan Yu. Yan Yu's crazed and ferocious face suddenly froze for a moment. She widened her eyes and looked at the ghost doctor. You're spouting nonsense. Yan Yu. Teacher Yi threw a slap across the air. Yan Yu felt a burning pain on her cheeks. Her entire body was thrown back a few steps by the impact of the xianqi. Her cheeks were swollen and blood dripped from the corner of her mouth. From this, it could be seen how much strength was used in that slap. Yan Yu's hands trembled as she touched her cheeks. Her eyes were filled with disbelief as she fixed her gaze on Teacher Yi. Teacher Yi clenched the hand he used to slap her, gritting his teeth in warning. However, Yan Yu could not see the guilt and pain in Teacher Yi's eyes. In her eyes, Yan Yu only felt that Teacher Yi had slapped himself because of Yi Qing Luo. Everything was that slut Yi Qing Luo's fault. Yi Qing Luo, that vixen, had seduced Teacher Yi, who had always doted on her. Teacher Yi was stunned by Yan Yu's hateful gaze. He slapped her. It was to stop her from being rude to the ghost doctor. If he allowed her to insult the ghost doctor, what awaited her wasn't just a simple slap on the face. However, Yan Yu didn't understand. Teacher Yi's heart sank. He thought that his student, who he thought to be exceptionally intelligent, was actually so stupid. It was really their teacher's failure. As a result, the students didn't even understand the simple principles of being human. What did the ghost doctor just say? Nirvana realm's traitor? Zi Qianqian. What's going on? Zi Qianqian is a traitor of the Nirvana realm? I think I've heard something incredible. What's going on? Why did Yan Yu say that Zi Qianqian was killed by Yi Qing Luo? But the ghost doctor said that Zi Qianqian is a traitor of the Nirvana realm? The attention of the students of the class of gods was drawn to the ghost doctor's words. As for Zi Qianqian, the students of the class of gods didn't have any special feelings for her. The only feeling he had was that he had approached Zi Qianqian in order to build a relationship with Yan Yu. Because Zi Qianqian was not considered a top student in the class of gods. In every test of the class of gods, he was always ranked at the bottom. Moreover, Zi Qianqian liked to run around the lower classes. Now that they heard the news of Zi Qianqian's death, they didn't have any special feelings. The only feeling they had was shock. The ghost doctor's voice was cold. Yes, Zi Qianqian colluded with the dark forces and attempted to kill all the elite students of the various academies in the Nirvana realm. Dark forces? Chapter 2253. Although they weren't very interested in anything outside of the class of gods, However, he more or less knew about the news that the Western continent had almost been destroyed some time ago. The West continent had been annexed by the Dark Forces and the Three Springs sect in an attempt to invade the West continent. Zi Qianshan actually colluded with the Dark Forces? Could it be that Zi Qianshan also wanted to invade the Western continent, although they were going to ascend to the upper realm in the future? However, they were the only ones who ascended to the immortal realm, Nirvana realm. The West continent was still their home. Their loved ones were here. You. Yan Yu looked at the ghost doctor in horror, as though he had not expected that the ghost doctor who had always hated trouble would actually speak up for Yi Qing Luo, clarifying that she had not caused Zi Qianshan's death. Yan Yu knew that the students of the class of gods didn't know much about the outside world. So he was thinking that while Yi Qing Luo was still in the class of gods, he would slowly make everyone think that it was Yi Qing Luo who was jealous of Zi Qianshan and caused his death. This way, she would be able to avenge Zi Qianshan openly. He did not expect that the ghost doctor would reveal the cause of Zi Qianshan's death. Who was the ghost doctor? Even the headmaster, whom they respected him so much. His words were extremely authoritative. Who wouldn't believe it? Because of Zi Qianshan, she killed a total of 52 students from the Wind Vein Academy. The ghost doctor enunciated each and every word extremely clearly. Because of Zi Qianshan, all the students of the academy almost died in the blaze nest. After that, the Luo girl captured Zi Qianshan and handed him over to the headquarters for punishment. The faces of the students of the class of gods paled. The ghost doctor's cold gaze swept towards Yan Yu. Student Yan Yu, do you think that last Luo was wrong to hand over Zi Qianshan, that traitor, that murderer, to the general hospital? Yan Yu's body trembled. The students of the class of gods were speechless. If it was them, they would also hand Zi Qianshan over to the headquarters. It wasn't like they hadn't killed anyone before. But 52 lives were taken, and they were the lives of students from other academies. Zi Qianshan was actually so ruthless. It was only natural for the General Institute to execute Zi Qianshan. This indeed couldn't be blamed on Yi Qing Luo. You are. Yan Yu still wanted to struggle. The ghost doctor had already interrupted Yan Yu's words with a cold sneer. If you don't believe me, you can go back to your clan and ask your relatives. I'm sure they'll tell you in more detail. Yan Yu's body slumped to the ground. Zi Qianshan clearly deserved to die. As students of the class of gods, how dare you collude with other factions to kill students from other schools? Isn't this just bringing shame to our class? Yan Yu, what face do you have to blame Zi Qianshan's death on Yi Qing Luo? 52 lives. He even wanted to kill all the university students from all the schools. Even if she dies, she won't be able to repay those 52 lives. The students of the class of gods began to berate Yan Yu. Even Yi Luo did not have the face to speak for Yan Yu. It could be said that ever since the ghost doctor and Gui Yu appeared, Yan Yu no longer had the slightest advantage. On the training ground, the momentum was already one-sided. Teacher Yi bore with the pain as he shut his eyes. Yan Yu has disobeyed his superiors and has slandered the new devil class several times. Deduct 2 months of resources and lock him up in the confinement room for a month. Then send him to High Profound Class 2. The students of the class of gods were all stunned. The berating voices stopped abruptly. Chapter 2254. This punishment, wasn't it a little too harsh? One must know that the students who were chased out of class of gods, no matter how outstanding their innate talents were, once they went to the lower class, they would be ridiculed by all the students. But on second thoughts, Yan Yu couldn't figure out the situation. For Zi Qianshan, he found trouble with Yi Qing Luo. If this matter was spread out, it would only make people link Zi Qianshan and the class of gods together. By then, the divine image which the class of gods had painstakingly built up would be destroyed in one day. They must not let Yan Yu affect the reputation of their class of gods. Immediately, those shocked students restrained their expressions, and no one spoke up to plead for Yan Yu. Iluo's expression froze in the crowd. If Yan Yu left class of gods, what would happen to her? She had always been Yan Yu's follower. She had suffered so much injustice. How could she just watch as Yan Yu left? Teacher, Yan. Iluo bit her lower lip, trying to plead for Yan Yu, but she heard Old Man Goe use rough voice from the side. Just let her go to high profound class 2? What kind of punishment is this? Old E, do you really think I'm easy to fool just because I haven't been in charge for so many years? Teacher, E hurriedly explained. Master Goeyu, I'm not. You're not. Yan, you kept saying that she wanted to seek revenge for that traitor, Zi Qianshan. I have the right to suspect that Yan Yu had long known that Zi Qianshan was colluding with the dark forces? Otherwise, why did she feel that Zi Qianshan colluded with the dark forces? Was a very normal thing. Old Man Goeyu rudely interrupted Teacher Yi's words. Following that, he stared fiercely at Yan Yu. Furthermore, I feel that this Yan Yu is also part of the dark forces. Old Man Goeyu's voice was very loud and rough. The moment he roared, the entire sky above the training ground reverberated with Old Man Goeyu's voice. The students of Class of Gods were first stunned by Old Man Goeyu's domineering manner. Following that, they looked at Yan Yu in horror. They all took a step back in unison, afraid that Yan Yu's matter would implicate them. How would Iluo dare to continue pleading for Yan Yu? If she continued to plead, she might be labeled as an accomplice of the dark forces. Yan Yu was also frightened out of his wits by Old Man Goeyu's words. He immediately hugged his head and shook his head while crying, I'm not from the underground forces. I don't know. I didn't. Teacher, he also felt a chill down his spine. Master Goeyu, this can't be. Yan Yu rarely leaves the class of God. How? It doesn't matter if it's possible or not. I think we should arrest Yan Yu first and send him to the headquarters for investigation. Old Man Goeyu said impatiently. Send him to the general hospital for investigation? Not only would he be kicked out of the class of gods, he would be severely punished. Once he was sent to the headquarters, he would be investigated to see if he was related to the underworld forces. Yan Yu's reputation wasn't the only thing affected, and House Yan's reputation. In the end, they found out that Yan Yu had nothing to do with the underground forces. However, this black mark would follow Yan Yu and House Yan for the rest of their lives. Old Man Goeyu was obviously going to destroy Yan Yu. The students of the class of gods couldn't help but secretly sigh in relief. He could offend anyone, but not Yiqing Luo. Fortunately, they didn't target Yiqing Luo because they didn't want to deal with the lower class. Otherwise, they would be the unlucky ones now. Chapter 2255. Teacher Yi's body stiffened. He forced a smile and said, Lord Goeyu is right. I have no objections. Yan Yu looked at Teacher Yi in disbelief. He had actually really given up on her. He was actually not pleading for her anymore. Sending her to the general hospital was the same as destroying her life. Since there are no objections, then it's decided. Old Man Goeyu waved his hand, and a hemp rope flew out from his sleeve. The hemp rope coiled around Yan Yu's body like a snake. Yan Yu was tightly bound by the hemp rope. Yan Yu cried out in pain. His limbs were bound by the hemp rope, and he fell to the ground uncontrollably. Her face contorted in disgust. There was also an extremely pungent smell coming from the hemp rope. Master Goeyu, where did you get the rope? You even brought along a hemp rope? Yiqing Luo looked at Yan Yu's expression and knew how strong the smell of that hemp rope was. She purposely asked Old Man Goeyu. Old Man Goeyu, you did not think much of it. I came in a hurry and could only pull a rope from the horse-dung to rush over. Whoever bullied you, I will use the horse-dung rope to whip him to death. Yiqing Luo burst out laughing. No wonder he was Goeyu. Take hemp rope out of horse-dung. He could even think of such a method. The faces of the students from the class of gods darkened when they heard that it was hemp rope in horse dung. Another female student clutched her chest and ran to the side to vomit. Yan Yu's expression turned even uglier. She kept retching, and her body kept struggling, trying to break free from this disgusting hemp rope. But how could she easily untie the hemp rope tied by old man Goeyu? Sirs, I will personally escort student Yan Yu to the dean, and the dean will send someone to escort student Yan Yu to the headquarters. Teacher Xin Qing, who had been silent all this while, spoke up. At this moment, he no longer had his usual lazy expression on his face. Xin Qing slowly walked to Yan Yu's side. Today, the students carried weights for 50 kilometers. They must be tired. Go back and rest. The students of the class of gods subconsciously looked at the ghost doctor and Goeyu, seeing that none of them spoke. Only then did he say tentatively, "Then we'll go back first." Xin Qing nodded. The ghost doctor and old man Goeyu still did not speak. Only then did the students carefully prepare to leave. At this moment, a clear and melodious voice came from the entrance of the training ground. What's going on? How could a physical training cause such a big commotion? The students of the class of gods bowed respectfully. Teacher Bai and a headmaster, Yi Qing Luo, looked towards the direction of the voice. He saw a charming beauty walking over gracefully. The headmaster's robes on the woman had been modified to accentuate her figure. The places that should be protruding were protruding. The places that should be thin were thin, and the places that should be perky were perky. Bai Mei, why are you here? Xin Qing frowned slightly. She had finally found a chance to let the students leave first. Why did Bai Mei come at this time? Bai Mei raised an eyebrow. Can't I come? She walked over and saw the ghost doctor and old man Goeyu. She was surprised. Old man Goeyu, ghost doctor? Yo, what kind of wind blew you two here? Why didn't you tell me in advance that you were coming? Are you trying to exclude me? The students of the class of gods were dumbfounded. Why did it seem like? Teacher Bai and these two sirs had a close relationship? Yan Yu. Bai Mei noticed the tied-up Yan Yu, who was sprawled on the ground. Chapter 2256. When Bai Mei heard this, she frowned and looked at Xin Qing. What's going on? Xin Qing shook her head. Zi Qianqian's death has agitated her. I'll bring her to the headmasters to calm down first. Zi Qianqian. Bai Mei's frown deepened. She pondered for a long time before she remembered. Are you talking about the girl who was executed by the general hospital? Didn't she die a long time ago? How did she provoke Yan Yu now? Xin Qing lifted her eyelids and frowned at her, signaling her to shut up and stop talking. However, old man Goeyu could not bear to see that there was still someone who would save Yan Yu. He raised his voice and sneered. This student is certain that Zi Qianqian's death was caused by my Luo lass, and he is determined to find trouble with my Luo lass. Bai Mei seemed to have heard some big news. A shocked expression appeared on her beautiful face as she said, You're Luo? Old man Goeyu, don't tell me, are you in heat? The whole place was silent. Old man Goeyu's face turned the color of pig liver. Bai Mei, what nonsense are you spouting? Teacher Yi stepped forward and grabbed Bai Mei's wrist. Bai Mei looked puzzled. Did I guess wrong? It was old man Goeyu himself who said something about his family. Teacher Yi tightened his grip on Bai Mei's wrist. Bai Mei fell silent. Old man Goeyu's face was gloomy. To be able to make the hot-tempered and straightforward old man Goeyu so depressed. Obviously he was furious. Yi Qing Luo stood by Ghost Doctor's side as her pink lips pulled into an arc, revealing a sliver of ridicule. Her long and narrow eyes stared unblinkingly at Bai Mei's innocent face. She couldn't hold it in and laughed out loud. Did this elder Bai Mei really not know anything about this? Or was he pretending not to know? Did he say those words intentionally, or was it just a casual remark, a deliberate joke? Yi Qing Luo was leaning towards the former. After all, she was the teacher of the class of gods. Regarding what happened in the class of gods, how could she not know? Others might believe it, but she didn't. Under the silent situation, Yi Qing Luo's laughter was especially abrupt. Almost everyone's vision shifted onto Yi Qing Luo. Bai Mei's gaze fell onto Yi Qing Luo's face. "This student, what are you laughing at?" "Nothing much. I just admire Master Bai's imagination." Yi Qing Luo smiled in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. Bai Mei didn't seem to understand Yi Qing Luo's words. Yi Qing Luo smiled lightly. "Master Bai, just based on the 2 words my home, you can imagine that wandering ghost teacher has a lover. Don't you have a big imagination?" Bai Mei's expression froze. Yi Qing Luo gave an extremely gentle smile as her voice also softened a little. "Teacher Bai, it's fine if you say these words in front of your own people. But as a teacher, it's not appropriate for you to say these words in front of so many teenage boys and girls." Her voice was gentle, her tone was gentle, and even her expression was gentle. However, it was obvious from her words that she was accusing Bai Mei of not being a qualified teacher. Bai Mei's face sunk, but Yi Qing Luo didn't seem to notice it. "Master Guiyu is my brother's master. A master for a day, a father for life. Master Guiyu is naturally my family member. So in Master Guiyu's words, I am also his family member, and I am also his family member. Does Master Bai find this sentence ambiguous?" Bai Mei's face was completely overcast, but old man Guiyu was so happy that he almost jumped 3 feet in joy. His Luo girl said he was family. His Luo girl said she was his family member. His Luo girl said she was his family member. Chapter 22:57. Old man Guiyu was happy, but the ghost doctor refused to comply. He coldly glanced at old man Guiyu and sneered, "Yes, a teacher for a day, a father for life. You are only the teacher of the little girl's brother. In terms of seniority, you are 1 level lower than me. I look down on you. Didn't you hear what little Luo said? I'm her family." Old man Guiyu was pissed. The ghost doctor laughed coldly again. "But I'm her Shifu, so I'm 1 level higher than you." "You." Old man Guiyu glared at him. Speechless, old man Guiyu hugged Yi Qing Luo's arm. "Luo lass, you tell him, I am more important than him." Ghost doctor's brows creased when he saw that, but he went forward and held Yi Qing Luo's wrist. The ghost doctor didn't say anything, but looking at his stance, it was obvious that he wanted to compete with old man Guiyu. Yi Qing Luo. What kind of timing was this? And these 2 could still quarrel. The surrounding students. Did they see wrongly? Why were the 2 adults so childish? Bai Mei, who had a gloomy expression on her face, was completely ignored. Staring at the young girl sandwiched between Guiyu and Ghost Doctor, Bai Mei's expression became extremely complicated. Yan Yu, who was at the side, saw it clearly. Yan Yu secretly ridiculed Yi Qing Luo in his heart, to actually go against Master Bai Mei. Offending Master Bai Mei, even if Yi Qing Luo had Guiyu and Gui to treat her, Master Bai Mei would absolutely not show any mercy. As if noticing Yan Yu's gaze, Bai Mei suddenly turned to look at her. Coincidentally, his eyes met Yan Yu's. Okay, I said something wrong. I didn't pay attention to propriety. You 2 don't need to argue. It's very difficult for the little girl to be caught in the middle. Bai Mei adjusted the expression on her face and smiled to smooth things over. Old man Guiyu saw Yi Qing Luo's lifeless look and quickly let go of her hand. The ghost doctor also let go. Yi Qing Luo hugged her arms as she looked at the both of them. Master Ghost Doctor, Master Gu. Both of you are equally important in my heart, so can you not fight for it? If you continue to fight, you will only be able to split me into 2. They could not help but laugh. The scene became lively. Xin Qing took the opportunity to say, "Then I'll bring him to the dean first." Just as Xin-Qing was about to lift Yan-Yu up, Bai Mei suddenly said, "Wait." Xin-Qing paused. Even though Yan-Yu caused trouble for this student because of Zi Qianshan, he didn't have to go so far as to send him to the principal. If the other classes found out, wouldn't they think that something big had happened in our class? Xin-Qing looked troubled. "It's a long story. We can talk about it later. Don't disturb the student's rest." As he spoke, he picked up Yan-Yu and prepared to leave. Yan-Yu immediately wailed again. "I know I was wrong. I won't dare to do it again. Yiqing Luo, I apologize to you. Please don't chase me out of the class of gods. Master Bai, save me. Save me." Bai Mei looked at the struggling Yan-Yu and felt a little pity for him. Following that, he turned to look at Yiqing Luo. "This. Student Yiqing Luo, today is also your first day in the class of gods, and we will have to spend another month together. Harmony is the most important thing. Why must you bully others too much?" Although Bai Mei's words sounded like she was pleading for Yan-Yu, but no matter how one listened, it sounded like she was reprimanding Yiqing Luo for taking advantage of her power to bully others. Bai Mei. The three masters immediately stopped Bai Mei. Chapter 2258. Bai Mei raised her chin slightly, almost as if she was giving orders. "Student Yiqing Luo, although you have Old Man Goeiyu and Ghost Doctor to back you up, but Master has to give you a piece of advice. Always leave a way out so that we can meet again in the future. No matter what you do, don't be too childish and go too far." As Yiqing Luo listened on, she couldn't help but laugh. Women were really petty. Was Bai Mei taking revenge on him for mocking her for not being a qualified teacher? Yiqing Luo's laughter made Bai Mei's expression congealed. Yiqing Luo held down Old Man Goeiyu, who was about to go berserk as she smiled at Bai Mei. Master Bai's imagination is indeed strong. From the start till the end, Master Ghost Doctor and Teacher Goeiyu were using logic to convince others, but in Master Bai's mouth it became a threat instead? She snickered. Without waiting for Bai Mei to retort, she continued, "Teacher Bai is right. In the coming month, I still have to interact with the students of the class of God, so I need to remove all obstacles that stand between me and the class of God." Bai Mei's expression turned cold. "Yiqing Luo, are you trying to go against your superior?" "Then what Master Bai means is that you can use your identity as a master to insult me as you wish." Yiqing Luo laughed lightly, neither servile nor overbearing. "What a glib tongue!" Bai Mei gritted her teeth, looking displeased. Yiqing Luo sneered. "I'm just arguing for what's right." "Enough, Bai Mei." Xin-Qing furrowed his brows. The matter had already passed, so why did Bai Mei want to stir up the flames of war again? "Xin-Qing, don't try to persuade me." Bai Mei strode forward and arrived in front of Xin-Qing. She stretched out her hand and snatched Yan-Yu, who was covered in the stench of horse dung. She lowered her head to look at Yan-Yu, whose face was covered in tears, and said word by word, "Today, I will protect Yan-Yu." "Thank you, Master Bai. Thank you, Master Bai." Yan-Yu was overjoyed. Bai Mei raised her head and glanced sideways at Yiqing Luo. "Student Yiqing Luo, this is the class of gods. I hope that no matter what happens, everything will be settled in the class of gods." Bai Mei. Fatty Teacher and Teacher E growled in unison. Bai Mei's lips curled into a gorgeous smile as she glanced in the direction of Ghost Doctor and Old Man Yu. "Both of you can rest assured I will not let your girls suffer any grievances." After a pause, her smile became even more radiant. There was also a hint of arrogance. "I've specially hired a helper to help me investigate this misunderstanding." "Helper?" The fat teacher's white eyebrows twitched. Did you also invite that person?" Bai Mei raised her lips proudly, and her eyes were full of charm. "If I ask, he will naturally help." The fat master's fat body trembled. "Bai Mei, why did you?" "Of course, it's to let some students know that there is always someone better than you. Don't always think about bullying others." Bai Mei sneered and interrupted the fat teacher. Her expression suddenly changed, and her incomparably beautiful face instantly became extremely flirtatious. Every smile and frown was a seductive gesture. What a coincidence! That person is already here. Bai Mei's voice was soft and seductive. Then let's take this opportunity to let that person make a judgment on this matter. The expressions of the three masters froze. They saw Bai Mei was already jogging towards the entrance of the training ground. They immediately knelt down in that direction. This action made the students in the class of God stunned. Very quickly, they followed their own masters and knelt down. In the entire training ground, only the devil class, Old Man Yu, and Ghost Doctor were still standing. At the training ground, a tall man slowly walked into the training ground. He walked against the light, and his face was hidden in the shadows, which couldn't be seen clearly. Chapter 2259. Gradually, the man came closer. His long robe fluttered in the night wind like rolling clouds. The moonlight poured down, as if it was plated with silver light. His black hair, which was not tied up, fluttered along with the man's footsteps. The glow of the luminous pearl shrouded that breathtakingly handsome face. A pair of peach blossom eyes that shone brighter than luminous pearls, as deep as the sea. The training ground fell into a dead silence. Everyone's eyes widened as they watched the approaching man. In a split second, even their breathing became extremely cautious. DMO Xian, fat teacher, was the first to regain his senses and immediately bowed to the man. Everyone else snapped back to reality and bowed to the man in unison. Greetings, DMO Xian. The man stopped in front of them, expressionless. His deep, black peach blossom eyes coldly swept across the group of people kneeling on the ground. Although he did not speak, however, the powerful aura emanating from his body was enough to make one's heart tremble. Everyone broke out in cold sweat. The three teachers knew that the DMO Xian had come to the class of gods in recent days, but they thought that the DMO Xian had not appeared. It was Bai Mei who greeted the DMO Xian, and that one, but they never expected that Bai Mei would actually invite the DMO Xian over. If the DMO Xian stood on Bai Mei's side and protected Yan Yu for her, even Ghost Doctor, an old ghost, you would have to give way. The three headmasters felt like dying. It was just a simple special training. How did it turn into such a situation? One by one, it was a rare sight, appearing here as if it was free. When the students of the class of gods saw DMO Xian in person, all their fatigue, irritation, and negative emotions disappeared without a trace. In their eyes, in their hearts, there was only DMO Xian. He was the legend of Nirvana Realm, the palace lord of the Imperial Palace, the DMO Xian. Bai Mei took in everyone's expressions. Her coquettish face was filled with pride. She raised her eyebrows and walked towards DMO Xian. DMO Xian, I'm sorry. Before the devil class came, the atmosphere in the class of gods had always been very good. She explained to DMO Xian. There was only one meaning in his words. Today's farce was all caused by the devil class. DMO Xian's brows creased slightly as his deep eyes swept past the direction of the devil class. Finally, it landed on between the Ghost Doctor and Old Man Goeyu on the beautiful girl dressed in red. No one knew if it was an illusion. Why was it so strange? It seemed that the coldness on His Majesty was gradually weakening. Bai Mei also noticed DMO Xian's gaze. Her heart tightened. A woman's intuition had always been terrifyingly accurate. She bit her lips and leaned her body closer to DMO Xian. Overlord, may Mayor be so bold as to hope that Overlord can uphold justice for Mayor and return peace to class of gods. Bai Mei's actions could be said to be extremely explicit. The expressions of the three teachers were immediately awkward, and their faces were stiff. However, just as Bai Mei was about to approach him, DMO Xian had already turned sideways, avoiding Bai Mei's embrace. He glanced at Bai Mei indifferently. His thin lips moved slightly, and his voice was clear like a bone-piercing cold wind. "Teacher Bai Mei, please conduct yourself with dignity." Bai Mei's face stiffened. Chapter 2260. Bai Mei's face darkened as she stared angrily. Class of God students obediently knelt on the ground as they stared at Dmo Xian. Their eyes filled with respect. It wasn't them. Bai Mei's face darkened. That pair of flirtatious expression instantly turned sinister, filled with hostility. Her gaze fell on the 10 people standing upright not too far away. Those 10 people. Ever since the appearance of the Overlord, they had been standing at the same spot, not moving an inch. Their attention wasn't on the Overlord. Instead, they were staring at her, and there were 2 female students pointing at her, grinning from ear to ear. Obviously, those who laughed out loud were the students of Devil Class. Who allowed you to laugh? You even dare to make fun of Master? Don't you know how to respect your teacher? Bai Mei clenched her fists as she rebuked sternly. Yan Xiao Yi and Dan Bai Shi looked at each other, laughing even louder. The other students of Devil Class looked at the 2 students and smiled helplessly, without any intention to stop them. Bai Mei was so angry that her whole body was trembling. "You students without any morals. I'm going to bring you to the director's office. I want the director to give me an explanation." Yan Xiao Yi and Dan Bai Shi not only had no fear. On the contrary, they laughed even more wildly. Even the other students couldn't help but laugh. Good. Good, all of you. Students of the Devil Class. All of you want to rebel, right? Bai Mei's tender and beautiful face was somewhat sinister. The embarrassment of being rejected by Dmo Xian was vented on the Devil Class. Bai Mei's feet moved as fast as lightning, nearing the Devil Class students. Her 5 fingers were like eagle claws, mercilessly pinching Yan Xiao Yi's shoulder. "Go. I'm going to bring you to the director's office. You dare to touch her." Xiao Jin's expression congealed as he bellowed in rage. Just as Bai Mei's 5 fingers were about to lock onto Yan Xiao Yi, Xiao Jin suddenly embraced Yan Xiao Yi and pulled her into his embrace. He immediately raised his palm and struck towards Bai Mei's direction. Bai Mei didn't expect the students to retaliate, so she didn't pay attention. Xiao Jin's palm landed directly on Bai Mei's chest. This palm, Xiao Jin, was only used as a deterrent and didn't use much profound energy. Bai Mei was only forced to take a few steps back from the impact. But this was no longer a matter of using a few % of profound energy or suffering some kind of injury. Students of Devil Class, how dare he attack the headmaster? And in front of so many students, in front of His Majesty, where would she put her face? The expression on Bai Mei's face grew colder and more ferocious. Her fingers curled up stiffly. Suddenly, she looked at the 3 teachers. "Old E, Old Fatty, Old Shin, all of you have seen it with your own eyes. The Devil Class students openly attack teacher. Based on this alone, I have the right to order him to get out of the Heavenly Academy." The 3 headmasters' faces tightened. That was the only thing the D-Zune had said since he had appeared. They had no idea what the D-Zune was thinking. As for Old Man Goeyu and Ghost Doctor, they didn't open their mouths, but stared straight at Yi Qing Luo. Naturally, they did not dare to speak rashly. Bai Mei was the only one screaming hysterically in the quiet training ground. But no matter how much she roared, not a single person echoed her. Bai Mei had never been so embarrassed before, especially in front of Dmo Xian. She clenched her fists tightly as she raised her hand again and grabbed towards Xiao Jin and Yan Xiao Yi's direction. Bam! A ray of profound light shot over. Bai Mei was on her guard as she quickly retreated backwards. Chapter 2261. The red-clothed girl held a red feather fan in her hand, gently waving it. Her eyes, which were as bright as stars, stared at Bai Mei with a faint smile. The young girl's face was extremely beautiful, and she had the temperament of a fairy. She was also as gorgeous and enchanting as a rose. Obviously, she was just a little girl who was still wet behind the ears. However, compared to Bai Mei, who was still charming, she was even more bewitching. This made Bai Mei's heart thump even more clearly. Yi Qing Luo, are you trying to stand up for them? Bai Mei gritted her teeth and asked angrily, Stand up for me? Yi Qing Luo raised her brows slightly. Such a small matter. I don't need to stand up for you. Small matter? Bai Mei's anger surged. Yi Qing Luo's words meant that Yi Qing Luo totally didn't put her in her eyes. Yi Qing Luo's lips curved upwards, revealing a sweet, amorous feeling. I just have a few words to say to Master Bai. Bai Mei knew that those words were definitely not good words. How could she possibly allow Yi Qing Luo to humiliate her? Bai Mei took a deep breath and adjusted the expression on her face. Following that, she turned her head with an aggrieved look and looked at Dmo Xian. Overlord, look at these devil-class students. Speak. A cold word interrupted Bai Mei's affectedly coquettish voice. Bai Mei was startled. Her deliberate expression of grievance and amorous feelings froze on her face. But Dmo Xian's eyes weren't looking at Bai Mei. Instead, it fell onto Yi Qing Luo without blinking. Apparently, the word which he spat out earlier was directed at Yi Qing Luo. Say what? Bai Mei reacted abruptly as her pupils dilated and looked at Dmo Xian in shock. Earlier, Yi Qing Luo said that she had something to say to Master Bai. Dmo Xian say meant. In other words, let Yi Qing Luo say it? Lord Dizun. Bai Mei's throat tightened. She had never expected that the Lord Dizun, who had been so gentle in the past few days, would suddenly become so unreachable. She thought that she could rely on Dmo Xian's power to suppress the arrogant Yi Qing Luo. Unexpectedly, Dmo Xian did not have the slightest intention to save her face. What was going on? Even if the Overlord did not like her. But he would never embarrass her like this in front of others. Yi Qing Luo's brows rose as her charming eyes sparkled brilliantly, making eye contact with Dmo Xian. She smiled sweetly. Her bright smile was like a deadly poppy flower, peerlessly beautiful. First, as a teacher, Master Bai has no self-respect for seducing a man in front of so many students. I very much question whether Master Bai has the ability to be a teacher. Secondly, White Master failed to seduce a man and was instead warned by the man to please conduct yourself. This was indeed an extremely ridiculous matter, wasn't it? Since Master Bai has shamelessly seduced the Overlord in public, then it's only natural for my two sisters to laugh at you, isn't it? Two consecutive, isn't that so? Rhetorical questions, each one more forceful than the last. Bai Mei was so shocked that she couldn't even open her mouth to refute. Yi Qing Luo raised her slender brows as the corners of her mouth twitched in disdain. Thirdly, Master Bai did not allow any explanation and made a move on the students. Is he trying to use his identity as a teacher to suppress the students? If so, why can't my classmates retaliate in self-defense? Could it be that in the class of God, only the teachers are allowed to abuse the students, and the students can only silently accept it? No resistance. When Yi Qing Luo's words fell. Chapter 2262. Yi Qing Luo squinted her eyes. In that case, only Master Bai has such an idea. You. Bai Mei regained her senses, fuming with anger. Yi Qing Luo, you are talking nonsense. Yi Qing Luo snorted disdainfully. An old cow wants to eat young grass? Would the Overlord fancy you? And even try to seduce him? Where's your shame? She dragged out the last syllable. Oh, I forgot. You are already shameless. Where's your shame? Yi Qing Luo. Bai Mei was so angry that her eyes turned black and her body trembled uncontrollably. An old cow eating young grass? Yi Qing Luo actually scolded her for eating young grass. Was she old? How was she old? She was obviously skilled and able to serve the Overlord better. What's more, they were cultivators of profound chi. There was no difference in age at all, right? If they were to go to the upper realm, any 12 or 13-year-old child could very possibly be a senior who had been cultivating for hundreds of years. The Overlord doesn't fancy me. Don't tell me he likes you. Look at that foxy look of yours. Your eyes are glued to the Overlord. How dare you make fun of me? Bai Mei was so angry that she blurted out. Yi Qing Luo smiled instead of getting angry. She tilted her head and smiled sweetly. That's right, the Overlord doesn't like an old cow like you. He likes people like me who are pure and untainted, pure and innocent, beautiful and young little beauties. Devil class students. Qing Luo, where's your shame? Where's your shame? For the sake of His Majesty, you've even thrown away your moral integrity. Class of God students. They admitted that Yi Qing Luo was indeed beautiful. But where did she get the confidence to think that the Overlord would fancy her? Moreover, was it really good to boast about herself? The three masters were speechless. Could it be that this girl had been bewitched by the Overlord's peerless face? Bai Mei heard Yi Qing Luo's words and gave a mocking laugh. She stared at Yi Qing Luo, her eyes filled with ridicule. Yi Qing Luo, aren't you thinking too highly of yourself? Do you really think that the Overlord is such a shallow person? How dare you embarrass yourself in front of His Majesty with your looks? Who do you think you are? Really? Yi Qing Luo raised her brows as she gave an incomparably enchanting smile. Suddenly, the corners of her mouth curled up and a trace of craftiness flashed across her charming eyes. Following that, she openly walked towards Mo Xian's direction. Bai Mei's heart couldn't help but trembled as she stared at Yi Qing Luo in shock. Yi Qing Luo. Surely she wouldn't really want to seduce the Overlord in public, right? Bai Mei wanted to stop Yi Qing Luo from getting near. But before she could act, she recalled the scene of Mo Xian avoiding her touch. She paused to stop him. Just based on Yi Qing Luo, that tender little bean sprout, how could she arouse the Overlord's interest? She was going to take a good look at how Yi Qing Luo was rejected by the Overlord. How embarrassing she was. Yi Qing Luo's peripheral vision shot a glance at Bai Mei, who was smiling delightedly. Her lips curled up even more. Her long and narrow eyes slightly curved. She met Mo Xian's eyes and her smile widened. Finally, he stopped. The distance between her and Mo Xian was only the distance of one step. Overlord, I want to seduce you. Do you have a problem with that? Yi Qing Luo looked up at him. Her charming eyes reflected the man's handsome face. Everyone was taken aback. Seducing someone, or what? She knew it in her heart. How could she say it directly in front of the person she wanted to seduce? Mo Xian's eyes drooped. Sparkling ripples flashed across his peach blossom eyes. Chapter 2263. His elegant eyes met with her enchanting eyes. For eyes met, and everything was silent. Both of them didn't say a word. They just looked at each other quietly. These two people were calm, but the crowd couldn't stay calm. Their hearts were about to jump out from their throats. What was with this strange atmosphere? Why didn't the Overlord say anything? Yi Qing Luo said she wanted to seduce the Overlord. Why didn't she take the next step? In this strange and heavy atmosphere, the atmosphere was very strange. The crowd only felt that. Half of their lives were about to be scared out of their wits. Bai Mei clenched her fingers tightly as she looked at the two of them, looking at each other without saying a word. There was a warm feeling in her heart. She was so angry that her eyes turned red as she pointed at Yi Qing Luo angrily and started scolding. Yi Qing Luo! The Overlord didn't even want to bother about you, and you still don't know. The word shame had yet to come out from her mouth. Mo Xian glanced sideways as his peripheral vision casually swept past her. Bai Mei shuddered as she felt a burst of chilly air pressing down on her. It was just a faint peripheral vision, but it revealed a bone-chilling coldness. Following that, She saw DMO. Xian's gaze was completely on Yi Qing Luo alone. His dark eyes were glistening as his thin lips curled into an evil cold arc. How are you going to seduce me? It wasn't hard to hear the joy in his voice that was as mellow as fine wine. The crowd's hearts were pounding as they looked at Yi Qing Luo in disbelief. They couldn't imagine that after Yi Qing Luo's bold and rude action, the Overlord he wasn't angry, and joked with Yi Qing Luo. How could this be possible? The most shocked was Bai Mei. Bai Mei's flirtatious face was twisted into a ball due to shock and jealousy. However, this wasn't the end. The shock she gave the crowd hadn't ended yet. The young lady who was standing in front of DMO Xian raised her slender brows slightly after hearing DMO Xian's words. The young lady's eyes were curved, narrow, and charming. She burst out laughing. Her laughter was filled with flirtatiousness and sweetness. It wasn't a deliberate act of coquettishness. It was extremely soothing to the ears. After that, the young lady stretched out a hand and hooked it around DMO Xian's neck. With a little force, DMO Xian's body leaned forward. The girl tiptoed and pressed her pink lips on the man's thin lips. It was a light kiss. The young lady moved her lips away and released his neck as she looked at DMO Xian's eyes with a smile. Such a seduction! Will Overlord be able to accept it? Night. Qing. Fall. Bai Mei screamed Yi Qing Luo's name hysterically. Her entire body was shaking uncontrollably as her eyes stared deadly at Yi Qing Luo, filled with dense, murderous intent. B*TCH. Little slut. Yi Qing Luo dared to blaspheme the Overlord. Yi Qing Luo actually dared to do such a thing to the Overlord. These few days, DMO Xian had been staying in the God class. She racked her brains, but was still unable to climb onto DMO Xian's bed. Even if they were to take a step closer to DMO Xian, they would be met with DMO Xian's cold stare. But Yi Qing Luo, that little slut, she actually dared to disrespect the Overlord in front of everyone. Bai Mei was so angry that she gritted her teeth and couldn't wait to tear Yi Qing Luo into pieces. The Overlord is not someone that a slut like you can blaspheme. I'm going to kill you. Bai Mei gave a furious howl of unwillingness as her figure suddenly scuttled towards Yi Qing Luo's direction, attacking directly. The crowd then regained their senses from the shock. They saw Bai Mei actually made a move on Yi Qing Luo. Chapter 2264. However, Teacher Yi's words were still too late. However, even if it wasn't too late, Bai Mei, who was in a fit of anger, would not listen to him. There was a deafening roar. The training ground was shrouded in dense qi that looked like a spider web. That huge net directly covered the direction where Bai Mei was coming from. Bang! Bai Mei let out a blood-curdling scream as she was sent flying and fell heavily on the ground. He didn't even have time to get up. That huge net had already enveloped her within. Ah! Bai Mei's shrill scream echoed throughout the training ground. Master Bai! The students cried out in fear. The faces of the three masters froze, and they dashed toward Bai Mei. However, the three of them were unable to get close to the large net formed by profound strength. Bai Mei spat out a mouthful of blood. Her injuries were extremely severe. She propped herself up in disbelief as she looked at DMO Xian. Lord Overlord, why did you? Besides DMO Xian, there was no one else who could hurt her. Other than DMO Xian, there was no one else who could create such a huge net to trap her. It was DMO Xian. DMO Xian had made a move on her. Bai Mei felt a dull pain in her heart. His gaze suddenly swept to the front of DMO Xian, the young lady who was smiling like a flower. Bai Mei's brain quivered. Yi Qing Luo, it was Yi Qing Luo. The reason why DMO Xian took action against her was because of Yi Qing Luo. Why? Why did DMO Xian want to help Yi Qing Luo? Could it be that DMO Xian had really taken a fancy to Yi Qing Luo? At this thought, Bai Mei's heart was filled with intense hatred. Overlord. Fatty Master looked at the situation. It was getting more and more complicated. He looked at DMO Xian awkwardly. Bai Mei, although her temper is a little hot-tempered, but Overlord's action, isn't it? Not too good. The fat teacher said meaningfully. As he spoke, he kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with his hand. He didn't want to come forward to persuade DMO Xian. He didn't want to step out to accuse DMO Xian. But Bai Mei was the teacher of the class of God, and she was the sister of that man. The Overlord and that lord had been good friends for many years. This was how he treated Bai Mei. Aren't you worried that the Lord will be angry? DMO Xian glanced at Fatty Master indifferently. Unfortunately, I'm very satisfied with this student's seduction, and I'm willing to let this student seduce me. Since Master Bai wants to hurt this student, I'll protect my woman. What's wrong with that? That was an understatement. It was an understatement. However, the meaning behind his words was like a clap of thunder that exploded in everyone's hearts. What did Dizun say? He said he was satisfied with Yi Qing Luo's seduction, and he even personally admitted that Yi Qing Luo was his woman? This must be a fake, venerable sovereign. The students couldn't believe what they were hearing. The 3 headmasters were also stunned on the spot. No matter who it was, no one would be able to believe DMO Xian's words. DMO Xian's words made Bai Mei, who was trapped in the net, spit out another mouthful of blood. Anger was raging in his heart. DMO Xian, he was actually seduced by Yi Qing Luo. Still said that Yi Qing Luo was his woman? Yi Qing Luo was just a little bean sprout. What qualifications did she have to seduce DMO Xian? The Overlord must have been bewitched by Yi Qing Luo. Bai Mei's eyes were stained with poison as she stared fiercely at Yi Qing Luo. Her silver teeth were almost crushed by her clenched teeth. Unexpectedly, while everyone was still in shock. Chapter 2265. The crowd sucked in a mouthful of cold air. Yi Qing Luo, wasn't this too arrogant? Did she know who the man in front of her was? Don't you know what the words Dizun represent? She actually rejected the Overlord. And it was rejected in public. After the shock, everyone's heart was filled with fear and uneasiness. The Overlord was such a high and mighty person. To be rejected by a 15-year-old young lady in public. Would he turn angry out of humiliation, and in order to hide this matter, he would slaughter all the witnesses? It was rumored that the Overlord was bloodthirsty and cruel, extremely cold and emotionless. In order to protect his own face, there was a possibility that the Overlord would really do this. This thought caused everyone to shiver involuntarily. They were all cursing Yi Qing Luo in their hearts. They wondered where did this woman get her confidence from? To be so arrogant and pampered here? Just because she was Ghost Doctor's disciple, the last that Goeiyu was protecting? Did she know that the Overlord status was much more respectable than Goeiyu, Ghost Doctor, and the rest? The students broke out in cold sweat, and some of them started crying out of fear of death. Yi Qing Luo, you slut! The Overlord has taken a liking to you. That's your past life's good fortune. Bai Mei was stunned by Yi Qing Luo's words. Her hatred and anger towards Yi Qing Luo had reached its peak at this moment. She had racked her brains to get the Overlord. But the Overlord was captivated by that slut Yi Qing Luo. This slut dared to reject the Overlord. This was a provocation to her. Was she ridiculing her for not getting what she wanted? The more she thought, the deeper the hatred in Bai Mei's heart. The deeper it was, the deeper Bai Mei's hatred towards Yi Qing Luo grew. Yi Qing Luo naturally didn't miss Bai Mei's growing hatred. Her lips curled as she smiled sweetly. The Overlord has taken a liking to me. That means his foresight is good. Her words paused as Yi Qing Luo's gaze was filled with contempt as she sized up the disheveled Bai Mei from head to toe. Following that, she sneered. Taking a liking to me is better than taking a liking to an old cow like you. Master Bai, you're half a woman, and you still have the cheek to seduce the Overlord? You bitch. Bai Mei was so angry that she coughed up blood again. No woman would be able to control their emotions when they heard a woman they hated talking about their age. Yi Qing Luo raised her eyebrows and smiled enchantingly. Don't tell me Master Bai thinks I'm wrong? Let me ask all the men here, who would they choose between an old man and a young and beautiful girl? Everyone lowered their heads, not daring to make a sound. However, many male students silently answered in their hearts. Of course he would choose a young and beautiful girl, in front of a young and beautiful girl who would be interested in old Sue. As long as it was a man, they would make the same choice. Everyone sneaked a peek at DMO Xian. Unexpectedly, the honorable and mysterious Overlord was also a vulgar man, just like any other man, based on his appearance, of course. Everyone only dared to ridicule these words in their hearts. Bai Mei was so angry that her vision darkened, and she almost fainted. Hee, a low and hoarse chuckle sounded, filled with endless magnetism. Like a feather, it gently tickled the hearts of the crowd. The whole place instantly fell silent. Their gazes turned uniformly towards DMO Xian. The Overlord smiled. What did his smile mean? Chapter 2266. This student is right. DMO Xian chuckled softly. Right? What's right? What Yi Qing Luo said earlier was that the Overlord had taken a liking to her because he had good taste. The Overlord's right. Was he responding to Yi Qing Luo's words? Or the Overlord felt that Yi Qing Luo's ridicule of Bai Mei as a half-woman was right? The next moment, the Overlord personally answered their doubts. This Overlord's taste has always been good. The crowd. Why did it feel that the Overlord's words were also an admission that he also felt that Bai Mei was a half-woman? Yi Qing Luo nodded satisfactorily and looked at DMO Xian in satisfaction. This is the Overlord. If the Overlord was really blind to take a liking to that kind of trash, who knows how others would ridicule him? Not only does it prove that the Overlord has good taste, it also proves that the Overlord is a real man. The crowd wanted to laugh, but most of them were afraid. Why was Yi Qing Luo so daring? The words she said to the Overlord was more daring than the previous one. Did she really think that if the Overlord took a liking to her, he wouldn't kill her? After this thought passed, the crowd was slapped in the face again. Their noble Overlord really didn't look angry at all. On the contrary, his smile deepened as he looked at Yi Qing Luo without blinking and asked seriously, "Classmate, what do I need to do to make you like me too?" Yi Qing Luo's expression turned serious as she looked at Yi Qing Luo. This must be a fake Overlord. Why would the Overlord? Why would he use such a tone to talk to a girl? He still wanted to please Yi Qing Luo, to make her like him too. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. You seduce me too. DMO Xian's thin lips curled up frivolously. His peach blossom eyes rippled with spring water. His long arms suddenly wrapped around Yi Qing Luo's slender waist and locked her in his arms. He bent down and kissed her. Now, have you taken a liking to me? DMO Xian chuckled beside her ear. Yi Qing Luo touched her pink lips and nodded satisfactorily. Not bad. Then I'll reluctantly take a liking to you. Class of God students looked like they had opened a dye workshop, colorful and colorful. The three masters were dumbstruck and couldn't keep up with the current development, whereas the devil class students couldn't help but burst out laughing. Damn, he was fed another mouthful of dog food in front of everyone. Every time D-Zune appeared, they would be fed a mouthful of dog food. But fortunately, this time it wasn't just the 10 of them who were choked to death by dog food. Look at the colorful faces of the class of God students. Looking at the masters, shocked expression. Seeing the masters, shocked expression. Ching, 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 Luo, ching, ching, Luos. Their Overlord was really filled with love towards Qing Luo. Bai Ching by Ching Tian mo Ching, she. Mo Lord Ching, mo, by Ching she. Ching I Lord Ching, Ching, was she Lord? Ching and said, Ching, looking at Dmo Xian, lowering his head and smiling as he whispered to Yi Ching Luo. Bai Mei was so jealous that she wanted to break the atmosphere. Dmo Xian's cold voice rang. Since this lord and this student have taken a liking to each other, then this student's matter is also my matter. Bai Mei's heart trembled as she looked at Dmo Xian in disbelief. Chapter 2267. No, don't. Yan Yu's tightly bound body was like a limbless animal on the ground, constantly struggling and squirming. Her face was filled with terror as she looked at Dmo Xian and cried out, Don't. I'm wrong. I was wrong. Yi Ching Luo, let me off, I promise. I promise that the next time I see you, I will immediately scram. Yan Yu was very clear. If Dmo Xian had not come out, even if he was brought to the dean, she still had a chance to return to the class of gods, a chance to make a comeback. However, if the Overlord wanted to punish her, she would not be able to do so. No one in this world could save her. No one could disobey the orders of Dizun. No, this was not an order at all. Even if it was just a casual word from His Majesty, everyone would regard it as an oracle. If she was taken away to be punished, even if he died, he would be cursed by thousands of people. They might even end up like Zi Qianchan, and even their own clans would be suppressed. She absolutely did not want to become like that. Yan Yu squirmed crazily. He didn't care about his image at all. Yan Yu wasn't the only one who knew the consequences of this matter. Everyone present was very clear about the consequences of offending Dmo Xian. Even Yi Luo, after Dmo Xian said those words, silently stood behind the class of God students. He was afraid that he would be implicated. No one spoke up for Yan Yu again. In the silent training ground, only Yan Yu's cries could be heard. Yi Ching Luo squinted her eyes slightly as she leaned lazily in Dmo Xian's arms, as she disapprovingly glanced sideways at Yan Yu and smiled faintly. Student Yan Yu, you think too highly of me. I merely wanted to ask you to cooperate with the investigation. Why do you look as though you're about to die? She paused for a moment and then covered her mouth and exclaimed, Could it be that you've really colluded with the underworld forces, and that's why you're afraid of the Special Investigations Department finding out the truth? I didn't. I really didn't. Yan Yu cried and shook his head. Please let me go. I really know I was wrong. Yi Ching Luo's brows rose as her smile revealed a sliver of impatience. Student Yan, you must have begged the wrong person? I have no enmity with you, so why should I let you off? Moreover, as long as you are innocent, why should you be afraid of being investigated? Yan Yu shook her head. Her tears had already smeared the makeup on her face, making it look extremely comical. She had never had any contact with the dark forces. How could he be afraid of an investigation? What she was afraid of was Yi Ching Luo using the name of investigation to completely destroy her. This student, don't disturb this sovereign's woman. Dmo Xian saw Yi Ching Luo's impatience as he shot a cold glance towards Yan Yu. His voice suddenly turned icy cold. Still not bringing her down? The headmaster recovered from his shock. Suppressing the shock in his heart, Teacher Yi strode forward and said, I will go now. No. Teacher Yi, save me. Teacher Yi, save me. After Yan Yu was lifted up, he screamed hysterically. Hold on. Yi Ching Luo suddenly spoke. Trembling with fear, Teacher Yi halted his steps. He heard Yi Ching Luo speaking calmly. Director had offended the High Profound Hall's Hall Master and has already been ordered by the High Profound Hall's Hall Master to reflect on the wall for 3 days. So I'm afraid there's no way to investigate this matter. Teacher Yi's expression changed slightly as his voice trembled. Then send her to the Faculty Council and let the President of the Faculty Council carry out the investigation. When director returns from his reflection, this matter will be resolved. He paused, as though he was asking, Student Yi Qing Luo, what do you think? Faculty Council, Chapter 2268. Faculty Council, Simu Yan. The president of the Faculty Council, who had some relations with a certain protector from the dark forces. Sending her to the Faculty Council was indeed a good decision. Teacher Yi heaved a sigh of relief, afraid of being implicated by this matter. He immediately carried Yan Yu and dashed towards the entrance of the class of gods. He was really afraid of today. For a long period of time in the future, he was going to have a psychological trauma towards the physical fitness training ground. Yan Yu was still wailing, until she was dragged away by Teacher Yi. No one spoke out to plead for her. Yan Yu's heart was crying out in frustration. Towards Yi Qing Luo, she hated her even more. And that useless Bai Mei. If it wasn't for Bai Mei, that slut, she wouldn't have ended up in such a state. It was Bai Mei who insisted on showing off the power behind her, competing with Yi Qing Luo on how to bully others. She even invited the Overlord over, which led to her being personally mentioned by the Overlord to spare no effort to punish her. Yan Yu apparently didn't expect this. Right from the start, she was the one who took the initiative to seek help from Bai Mei. Her heart was filled with hatred towards Yi Qing Luo, hatred towards Bai Mei. After Yan Yu was brought away, the training ground fell into a deathly silence once again. No one dared to speak first. DMO, Xian lowered his head. His deep eyes gazed at the young lady in his arms, his elegant face. The lines were extremely gentle. Lil Luo, you must be tired today. Go back and rest? Yi Qing Luo stretched out her arms towards him. Hug me if you want. DMO Xian smiled to satisfy her. That kind of pampering almost blinded the eyes of the surrounding students. Only Ghost Doctor and Guiyu, as well as the Devil class of students, bore a look as though they were already used to it. DMO Xian carried Yi Qing Luo, walking towards the direction of the small path. Bai Mei panicked. She was still trapped in the big net, as she screamed shrilly, Overlord! Overlord! Let me out. Treating me like this. Aren't you afraid that I'll complain to sister? DMO Xian's footsteps halted. When Bai Mei saw this, her eyes lit up. Overlord, you promised sister that you'll take good care of me, for slut. She had yet to finish her curses, acutely sensing that the pressure on DMO Xian's body had sunk considerably. She came back to her senses and stopped herself from blurting out the words. She changed her words. You hurt me so much just for a little girl. If my sister knew about this, she would be bitterly disappointed. DMO Xian hugged Yi Qing Luo as he slowly turned his head. His brows were slightly furrowed and his expression was a little cold, revealing a sharpness. His peach blossom eyes were as deep as the sea. Bai Mei's body suddenly stiffened, and her expression became extremely ugly. Gradually, she began to tremble in fear. Obviously, DMO Xian did not utter a single word. But Bai Mei was totally unable to restrain her fear towards DMO Xian. You said it yourself, that's your sister. How this Lord treats you has nothing to do with your sister. DMO Xian's thin lips parted slightly. The words he spat out were also extremely cold. Bai Mei trembled and did not dare to speak. Yi Qing Luo bit her pink lips with interest and pinched DMO Xian's face with her little hand. Overlord, one master Bai is not enough. You even brought his sister? May I ask, who is this sister? DMO Xian lowered his head and looked at Yi Qing Luo. His thin lips revealed a smile. Why? Are you jealous? DMO Xian's voice just landed. Bai Mei seemed to have caught a breakthrough point as she screamed shrilly. Yi Qing Luo, you didn't hear wrongly. My sister and Overlord's relationship is not something you can interfere with. Asterisk. Chapter 2269. Seeing Yi Qing Luo's hand pinching DMO Xian's face. Not only was DMO Xian not infuriated. His brows were filled with gentleness. But when Dmo Xian faced her, it was as if he had fallen into an ice house. Why, on what basis did Yi Qing Luo, that slut who only knew how to bully others, other than her pretty face, was able to gain Dmo Xian's attention? Even if she couldn't get it, she would not allow Yi Qing Luo to be together with Dmo Xian happily. Which woman would not mind that the man she loved had other relationships with other women? Even if they didn't say it out loud, they would still feel a knot in their hearts. Furthermore, the relationship between the Overlord and her sister was something that the Overlord was unable to explain clearly to Yi Qing Luo. The more he explained, the more Yi Qing Luo would misunderstand. The minute Yi Qing Luo misunderstood the Overlord, between them, can they still be happy together? No, absolutely not. It was just as Bai Mei had predicted. After she yelled those words, Yi Zichen's expression changed. Dmo Xian's expression suddenly sunk. His ruthless gaze fell on her. There seemed to be a whirlpool in his ink-black eyes. Bai Mei was so shocked that she seemed to have lost all her strength and collapsed to the ground. She was terrified. She knew that her words had infuriated Dmo Xian. But more than that, he couldn't suppress his ecstasy. Dmo Xian's expression clearly explained. Her words would definitely incite the conflict between him and Yi Qing Luo. Anyway, for the sake of his sister, Dmo Xian would never kill her. At most, he would receive some punishment, as long as Yi Qing Luo and Dmo Xian were separated. So what if he had to suffer a little punishment? This was the first time the two of them had met and gotten to know each other, especially for a young lady like Yi Qing Luo. It was too easy to misunderstand because Dmo Xian had other relationships with other women, thus provoking Dmo Xian. Bai Mei's thoughts. How could Yi Qing Luo possibly not tell? But what made Yi Qing Luo surprised was Dmo Xian's expression when Bai Mei mentioned that sister. It could be seen that Dmo Xian indeed had an unusual relationship with Bai Mei's sister. Of course, she and Dmo Xian had experienced many things big and small. They were willing to give up their lives for each other. She would naturally believe in Dmo Xian. Looking at Dmo Xian's gloomy expression, while Yi Qing Luo raised her head to look at Dmo Xian's side profile with an astonished look, Bai Mei plucked up her courage and sneered. Young lady, as someone who has been through it, let me give you a piece of advice. Don't think too highly of yourself. In His Majesty's eyes, you are nothing but a toy. You will never be able to overcome the relationship between His Majesty and my sister. Bai Mei's words had several layers of meaning. Firstly, she used the words experienced to indicate that she and Dmo Xian had an unusual relationship. She was provoking Yi Qing Luo and using her own sister to infuriate her. However, after Yi Qing Luo heard Bai Mei's hysterical sneer, there was not the slightest bit of emotion on her face. Her tone was so calm that it was almost impossible to tell what she was feeling. Oh, Bai Mei was startled. Everyone was taken aback. Oh, what does "oh" mean? Did she not understand the meaning behind Bai Mei's words? Or Yi Qing Luo didn't like Dmo Xian. In order to provoke Bai Mei, she intentionally seduced Dmo Xian. So Yi Qing Luo didn't care what relationship Dmo Xian and Bai Mei's sister had, but even if she didn't like him now, it didn't mean that she wouldn't like him in the future. This was the Overlord,